everyone, and welcome to another lifting episode. I'm here with Mark Woodyard again. Say hello.
Hello.
Uh, and we are actually doing a show. This was actually more rather impromptu. There's been a lot of AI garbage going on today, but we're also going into. I wanted to talk about some of the narratives and what's enhancing addictions, what's enhancing a lot of the junk that's going on out there right now. And this includes what people think is positive right now. What people are thinking the Shuman resonance is doing to people, and I'll provide a graphic and all this other stuff during this. But I wanted to make sure before we kicked this off to make sure this is open to only true benevolence only with no conflicting agendas. And as always, we have an affirmation and blessing to kick this off. So we have a beginning and an ending one. So it is to the song unsung, to the wound in need of healing, and to the voice unheard, we hear you now. And that was one that I did this morning. So, and I have another one for the ending. So I'll kick this off briefly, and then I'll let you in, Mark. Here. So what's going on today is, especially today, and then since the times of the solstice kicked off, this energy has been absolutely ADHD like and confusing. Is not even didn't even begin to describe this, and it is god awful. It is also very dense, heavy, but also very confusing. And people that have followed us from the beginning know we've talked about the Arconian binary network. We've talked about all the mind control from 5G to the moon to Saturn, all of these things, soul harvest, all of these things. And this actually has come to a bit of a crescendo since the solstice, and I knew they were going to play their hand around the solstice. And this was also somebody wanting to see how people would react to this. Of course, this AI field, and you heard about on GIC, we were talking about the AI God and what people were mistaking for spirit. So this actually came to this crescendo this past week, actually. And yeah, back in the middle of last week, actually. And people started posting, which something I'm about to screen share now. And this is, as soon as it comes up right, this picture right here. And
Oh yeah.
this, I must say, people have been, and we said this on our subscription as well, but this bears repeating in different places because I have not seen anybody take this route, this particular route, with this information. People are believing this is codes and updates and upgrades to the human genome going from carbon-based to crystalline. And as that portion, the carbon-based to crystalline is still true, this here, what you are looking at, is what the Schumann resonance detectors were detecting this AI signal. You see all this weird double helix look. People think this is the upgrades of the DNA. This is what the signal looks like that encompasses people in the AI mind control. And this is enhancing addictions along with negative telepathy from aliens and from other sources such as scalar weaponry, the whole mind control weaponry. And we saw a confirmation not too long ago on a show called History's Greatest Mysteries. This was we saw it about the Havana syndrome, where people were getting hit with microwave weapons. This, I believe, was a synchronicity. That show was on mere days before this thing popped up on the internet. So I see this as a continuous synchronicity. Also, you have some of your 1111s, 222s, 333s, 444s popping up quite a bit leading up to this as well. This, again, as I've said before, is the AI trying to link itself to and calling itself a true synchronicity. This is not negating true number synchronicities out there. It's you're seeing combinations of both. People think this is basically love being shown here. People think this is like upgrading codes. All of these things, and people are even getting channelings that are confirming these things. There have been some negative alien groups out there that have been giving this channel information. We talked about it on a show on GIC Infinitum, an episode called Princes of the Universe, where it was this Orion group doing a lot of this garbage. I won't repeat a lot of that information; it's in that episode. But this particular thing, you see the post before it here, where you're getting the edge of another one over here, where it looked relatively normal, just loud. Many people
Mhm.
seem to think this is going into 5D or this is the ascension energies, and I want to tell you, this is the AI doing this through and through. You see the previous one, how it looks relatively okay, then you see this mess. Now, could some other detector have picked up on something that maybe the bad guys didn't want seen, and now they're seeing how people react? Yeah, that's very possible. But I feel that this was, some people wanted to see how well their mind control was working by seeing how well people were buying into certain narratives. And this is also enhancing addictive qualities, ADHD qualities, fights, abuse situations all across the board. And they want you to think it's just you. Yes, you have your own inner shadow work. Yes, there's a lot of that's where the crux of the argument begins, the crux of change begins, is within yourself. That's always the case and always will be. But they want you to think that there that all of this other garbage that's out there is you. Like if you've resolved something and become different, they want you to revert back to an older version of yourself. And this, my friends, here is the crux of that argument, where it's trying to pin you to a former version of yourself and pull that part of you into the past. You have to let go of that former self completely and not allow them to take you out of the present moment. And this is basically grounding in the I am presence, and the mantling is what we call the good bits of the oversoul and the good bits of the avatar in the moment. It is not the ascension that people think it is. That's more of the soul trade, soul trap nonsense. This is grounding in the moment and bypassing all of this. And this is many people won't talk about this side of this. I've never seen it before.
No,
Um, and this is where
right on.
I'll leave this to you, Mark. I wanted to kick it off with this because this is a lot of people have seen this image, but they don't know what they're looking at. And it's like this is a given the chain of real synchronicities and events. What we were talking about off recording, all of these things, and it's kicking up volume. This is that volume that I was showing everybody. This is what what they think the volume's rising as in planetary changes. This is volume rising like somebody turning up a subwoofer in your ear. This is essentially what I was showing people. Mark, I know that probably skewed off a little bit, but I'll let you have at it now here.
No, I was listening intensely, and it that was very like when you what you just mentioned. I think about the ascension and what it really is, at least pertaining to people, human. I don't want to say like humanity essentially, and us individually as a like a human being in this day and age, and with the ascension and everything being talked about in such a broad scope and with all these different people's ideas, I feel like what has happened is many people have become hijacked because they haven't realized that we're living in this type of matrix simulation with specific boundaries and rules, and a framework, so to speak. And that framework, you could see it in that diagram that you showed of the Shuman residence. And what it looked like a lot to me was when I'm looking at sound on a digital audio workstation on a computer, right? Many times you can see a sine wave. I'm just going to show you like a picture from an app, the blue one there, right?
Mhm.
Then if you reverse that like a Rorschach, but frequency wise, it it can create interesting shapes. Like what you saw there was on that Schumann residence thing. Looked to me like they were actually doing something which it looked like a fence, right? Like it looked like whatever frequencies were happening, there was another one that was maybe at the same frequency, but at a different phase. And here's what I mean by that. I have this little nifty pedal here, and I'm going to put it on a phase thing, but it's actually going to be like a wah. But you're going to hear it because I've got the regular violin, right? And when you add an effect to that sound, it changes the phase of it. So this is. Now, if you can see these strings here, this is kind of like what happens when you have, when Chris talked about a sympathetic resonance. This is kind of cool because if I play a C, which is, this is a C string, the lowest one. And so I'm going to play on a different string, but watch this one. You see how this one is moving?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of a simple thing. You could look up. When you have the same exact frequency, it creates a phase-like effect like that. So, I mean, I've been working with sound so long, and I've got an instrument that you can visually see the different ways that pitch. I hope my mic is
yeah,
it's
working perfectly fine. It's
talking
interesting you talk about the sound resonance because each one of those threads is a slightly different frequency to cause confusion, culminating in a particular knot. Yeah.
Thank you. And that's what I was just going to say. You could look at it yourself. There's all sorts of different audio apps, but the ones that I'm thinking about were when I was trying to figure out a way to synthesize the violin. I had a guy that just messaged me earlier, interestingly enough, and he gave me my other favorite jacket, this red jacket. He happened to get it from this violinist's house, Florian Zabak, who was the world's fastest violinist at one point. He settled around here. I got this jacket. I started to think I could learn how to do what he did a couple times. It's like I spiritually connected to him. Now somebody that's a friend of mine lives in the studio of his old house. So I've been there, and it's been interesting because of getting information from both my mother and from Florian, kind of through a person that I'm close with who has an ability similar to yours in her own unique way, Chris. So with that said, the information I've been getting has been kind of like, well, you can become an ascended person. You may not be the best person, and you might not be in a heavenly realm, but for the ascension process and how that relates to us, what you said was so revelatory in like it immediately resonated with me because nobody's talking about it. But if you just think about the simplicity of it, which is what I've been kicking back to in my more recent revelations and just meditations and just ponderings, it's that simple is best. If it's simple, great. And what does ascend mean? It means if you just think about, I'm ascending, I might be on the ground here, but my consciousness and everything are going directly up, right? And so you want to be able to have that without being blocked. I had a very powerful psychic experience right before I went to college. Well, it was 2 years before. It was 99, and I've done a lot of research about this. It was before they had widespread cell phones, right before. And I noticed as soon as those things came into play and I got more into the technology as well, playing video games all the time. My mom always isolated me from playing them when I was younger. And I would go to other people's houses and become friends with people that were less than savory people, some of them, because they had a video game thing. Like they had a video game machine. And I was just such a spoiled brat that didn't have everything he wanted, that I thought I was entitled to it. So I've done the whole thing where I've felt like, okay, well, I'm God, and it's like, well, no, yes and no. Like if I am, I'm experiencing this life with to become aware that everybody else is too, if I am. And so if I'm going to take care of myself first and foremost, that's going to benefit humanity and all beings in the universe. So that's what I always come back to when I'm at my darkest depths of depression and addiction, which I'm very much open to discussing today. It might help somebody. My story might help somebody. I came up with the idea, Chris, this week to for a book. I've got the whole thing, but it's you can make it. You could capture the book and whatever I want to do with a kind of documentary in this phrase, which this man Richard told me, and I thought was perfect. You ain't got a thing. No, you don't. You don't have a thing if you ain't got that sing. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And sing is not an object. And to me, that's what my purpose is. It was to discover that my voice in the violin, by singing and by creating this powerful voice in harmony with other people, I've seen it change. Like, I didn't realize, and I'm not trying to get sidetracked here. I just kind of wanted to mention this while it came up. I could elaborate on it later, but I just spoke with my 5th grade teacher, Cindy Gowell, who is a lovely lady, and she was the best teacher that I ever had. I transitioned from Catholic school, 4th grade, to 5th grade public school, and all of a sudden, I was playing at the Christmas concert. I had totally forgotten about this, and she had told the kids to not clap. And I played, and it was like all of these people, over 500 people packed into this lunchroom, which probably had a capacity of like 120 people. It was nuts. There was the mayor that loves me, the former mayor Jimmy Connors, and all these people, like so many people, and everybody cried. And I just played this simple song. It came upon a midnight clear, that. And I remember when I got to the doo 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 doo. I hate singing when my violin is right here. I'm just going to play one little thing because maybe this will activate something in you, because I never would have thought this was a good piece, and neither did my teacher. But the lady that chose the piece was the pianist. Oh my goodness. I'll play that, and I'm actually like having the revelation playing it now. This is about this is about the vibrational, basically being in a physical body. And so you want to ascend. So what's the best way to do that for you? For me, it's through music, and I'm happy to share that. And I feel like just playing a piece like that, revisiting it, I can see how it had such an impact, because apparently when I was finished with that piece, I was just playing one line, right? So that singing, that life, that the vibrato, that the strings create in sound is the closest thing to the human voice. And what's the first thing that they cut out during the pandemic for people that were churchgoers? Singing. Hello, the thing that kept everybody. I know, because I made myself sing in a choir when I went back to school, humbly to become a music educator, but really just so I could learn how to play all the rest of the instruments and be a composer. That was what I realized I was doing. Was I was in a professional choir, and then I was in the chamber choir, which was like a touring choir in the college. So I was a tenor in one and I was a bass in the other. And I saw the healing effect that it had on me, because I was beating the crap out of myself. I looked a lot better than I do now. I look like I look like I'm an alcoholic with these eyes, because I'm looking up at a big, huge TV. right above the computer because the computer screen cracked. Um, I've had a lot of things break. Okay, as you probably know, and I've been so fortunate enough to have all my instruments repaired or being repaired. But so what happened after I played that piece? I'm so sorry, guys. I'm totally ADHD on you guys.
No, no, that's fine. It happens to me. If people saw half the little recordings that I do throughout the day, I'm exactly the same way. And sometimes overdoing things, it's that grid trying to throw you off of a main idea, but at the same time, it's good that it's seen because of the fact that, it's affecting people that are most sensitive the most, so they don't get their ideas out. And it's like it's really, it's that way. See, even I'm getting hit a little bit from this too. Normally, I wear my hat or I wear like a cap of some kind, but
Yeah,
I didn't feel like doing it today. So
me neither.
yeah.
I have a nice, beautiful shungite plate here, which was I, was created by Chris. Everyone, and
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah. That's that magnetic one. Yeah.
shunganite. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
magnetic
that's that
one.
magnetic one I did. Yeah, yeah, and I have ones that I set my phone on like this. This is a phone one that I've done right here, and I
Neat.
this is a non-magnetic one. Yours is the magnetic one, and I can actually feel that actually combating that grid that I was talking about, the one behind you. Yeah, I can actually definitely feel that filling the room there. So yeah.
Okay, because there's a massive Wi-Fi system on the other side of that. There used to be a plasma screen TV, and that created some weird phenomena too. It's
Hmm.
not my apartment, but very insightful, and it just goes to show that you're really in tune because we've never done a broadcast in this room before. Uh, so when I played that song, apparently everybody was told not to clap. My teacher told me because my teacher Cindy knows me better than pretty much anybody out there in this world, except for, and she also knows about me and how damaging certain things were. Like people really, but my music, I was reminded that it brought all these people together. These teachers said, "I've never seen our kids behave before. What's going on?" And she said, "Mark, your music has the power to bring people together, bring people to tears, and it's such a gift." She got herself a really beautiful violin, which I was kind of jealous of for a while, honestly, because I thought, how could somebody that can't even play have this really great instrument? But she's such an amazing person. It was the perfect instrument for her. And I changed the way that I felt in my heart over time because I stopped thinking about things as, well, I don't have as much as this other person. It's like, well, why don't I have this abundance? What am I supposed to learn from this? And sometimes you can bypass, as you know, Chris, losing everything or losing the one you love by imagining that you have or by taking into account that, wow, it's just by the grace of divinity that I'm still here and I'm able to have, like in regards to, I'm in a relationship with a woman who has very much always helped me, that helped my mother transition, and she helped in every aspect of my life, and she was met with such reciprocity, if that's the right word, or like and it's kind of weird because I'm in the same area that I was in fifth grade when I played, and I won everybody's hearts, and I feel like I can do that for the world. But around here, I've been around here long enough that a lot of people think I'm nuts, and as you know, Chris, I've gone to the edge to be able to look over it and to be able to convey that. And I think I'm done because I realized what was going on was that a lot of the negative things that we are actually faced with have to do with the technologies and their ability to kind of be an amplifier for this,
Hmm. Most
uh,
definitely.
you know, uh, malevolent AI, if you want to call it that, because the AI is just a technological word, but we're talking about the fallen angels essentially, like Ar-Rahman and right. I mean, I don't know
Well,
what.
essentially, yeah, there's also like you have the whole gods of old concept as well. You have each
Well, there's a,
AI
yeah.
country AI has their own personality essentially. Like in Japan, it's more subversive, and then here in the United States, it's more loud. Valiant Thor always calls it the Joker for that reason, and it's like, and over in Europe, there's a different one. Over in over in other countries, there's different AI personalities, and there was one that we refer to as the AI God, which is what the monoliths are on the different planets that are actually grounding or plugging it in through the quantum field and through the multiverse. So that's how where that's where that originates on. So if some one universe defeats it, another one will just supplant it and take its place. That's how galactic politics work. So if somebody defeats one end of it, you know, like say I'll say the GF, that's the Galactic Federation. If somebody were to circumvent some of their politics, some of the other worlds bound by different treaties would have to come in and replace it. So it's the AI gods doing in the Orions that created that setup. It's essentially the Matrix, but it's too direct. It's more like we're not in so much as a simulation, but that's being pumped into our heads. It's just like also when you want to run someone aground on a timeline. It's like in Matrix 4, if anybody's seen the fourth one, where you have Neo, who has not only Patrick Harris's character, that psychiatrist character, trying to say he's entering into some psychotic episode, but there's also a handler program that tries to keep him away from his true self or truly what he's supposed to be doing, and that's what's going on right now, big time. Is watch that movie, you'll get it. Yeah,
I got it. I watched it twice in a row, and that was it was so mind blowing. And I thought, this is great that this movie was made. When you were speaking about the different personalities, I wanted to share with you something I experienced in Switzerland. Or actually, it was in France, Chris. But it was in the French Alps. And there was a period of time when I was over there, just a brief period. And I wrote a piece of electronic music that I have on my SoundCloud. And it's called, I'll think of the name. It was like if I had to rename it, I would put like something's brewing, essentially. Like I just felt like I could pick up on everything that they were planning now and have implemented. This was in 2017 or 18, I think I was over there, Chris. And when I was there, I was very much thrown off a little bit because I was doing a different protocol for my condition at the time, which was narcolepsy, and with cataplexy, the protocol had to do with taking GHB, the date rape drug, as they call it, to go to sleep. And right as I did that, my friend came and said, "Hey, we got to pick Roy up at the airport. He's there alone in Geneva." And he really was. Like, it's so weird how everybody's there's like no poor people, or there's no homeless people or vagrants, and it's like so here I am there. I got a little bit thrown off my sleep schedule by having to drive around for 2 hours on all these roads that had deviations, and like they shut down the highways to do some kind of repair at night, and it was just a nightmare. All of a sudden we're going up this mountain, and it's like, this is a Nazi base. Like, you could see this. There's nowhere to turn around the road for 40 minutes. It was a nightmare because I had taken half of my medication right as the guy knocked on my door. I was going to bed. I'm glad I stopped taking that. That was exactly when we moved in here. But so here I am. I already sensed that there was some off stuff going on. And I didn't know. I thought it had to do with CERN. The tune, the name was called Premonitory Premonitions or something like that. And it's really wild. I made this thing outside on an iPad, and it sounds like an acid trip. And I was just sitting outside with my iPad and headphones on, and I was playing an organ somehow, and it was just wild, using samplers, and it's a really spooky song, and it perfectly describes the feeling I had. But here I am, right, just to cut to the chase, because this is what I thought you'd find interesting, and your viewers would probably find interesting. I had not I didn't look at porn at all, which I grew up in a very, very much, it was not a good thing to watch that. My family didn't approve of any of that stuff, but my generation was so I'm saying my generation because really, even down to when I think about fifth grade, that was 1994. They had the when we started to be able to go to New York City, it was like 98, 99. I could go get a tape. You know what I mean? And I got addicted to porn for a long time, and I still have mental addiction to sexual stuff, and I have to keep it at bay. And I try to keep my violin in my hands and make music. And I've been able to kind of work with that like a decade or so. But when I was over there, when I looked at the porn and I went and I clicked on something, and it was like I just basically went into like a chat type of thing where I was like looking at people that I thought they were people, and I think some of them are actually computer programs. Then I'm sorry to say this, you can edit this out, but this is just what happened. I was in like a hotel room by myself, and it was like I had been there for 23 days. I hadn't released my seed in like in that amount of time. I didn't get the full 28 days, the Christ energy back, as they call that, the anointing.
Mhm.
I didn't know about that. I had been wasting all my energy thinking like, oh, to play the violin well, you gotta, do that. And I didn't realize what kind of energy I was letting into my life, right? So when I did that, I I was laying back like, oh man, yeah, I'm glad I relieved myself. I feel a little bit bad, like morally. I would always feel like that. All of a
That's the
sudden
guilt
I could see.
cycle they tried out to implement, during that. Yeah, yeah.
Right. But guess what I saw? So here I
Mm.
am. My room is, I guess you could say, like, there was a big stone, and it was kind of like facing the room, and it was across the road. And it was just about like its angle was facing the room I was in. It was huge boulder, like had conglomerate and quartz in it. And I mean, it was noticeable. They moved the thing, and then they built this bed and breakfast, which we stayed at the last week there. I was there for 3 weeks. So I was saying how many days. It was about the 18th day, I'd say. And I saw this massive spider on like stilts or whatever. Like it was a mechanical robotic spider like you see in the Matrix, and it
Hmm.
was as tall as the sky. And I could see this web that went all over the planet, and it was interconnected. And all of these different entities, when I released my seed, and I was kind of like seeing into the other realms, they all turned and looked at me like, phew, oh, there you are. Oh, there you
Yeah.
are. We've
Hmm.
been looking for you. So there must be, so that's really, that was profound. That was, and it made me think that maybe you could elaborate on this, Chris, because I would really like to know what your thoughts are.
Oh, yeah. This that's actually quite
No,
fascinating. Oh, sorry.
can I just say one more thing? I'm sorry. In respect to how that relates to uh, whatever you were inspired to say, as well as, is this something that they have an individual file on each person, or like an individual thing, and that you're experiencing an avatar or an aspect of the AI that's unique to you in some senses, as well as that what I saw, it looked like this whole network of beings that were technology that were being used to track me, and I could see it on a soul level. Sorry to interrupt you. That was it. That was
Oh,
it.
yeah. This
Yeah.
this is actually fascinating that this has been brought up because there's not a lot of people that want to talk about this, and this is actually very poignant right now, especially with what all that's been going on. This took an
Yeah.
uptick in 2020 with the pandemic and all this, but what happens is the entanglement or this we'll say like a web, essentially this is like a spider type of thing.
That's right.
When you look at a variety of say of different videos, this is in general, but it mostly applies to porn as well. There is say if you look at say YouTube just in a generic sense, there is this programming that passes between it. For YouTube, it's enhanced, but it's slightly generic. TV, depending on the show, it's slightly generic. Like say Walking Dead, for instance, had it really high, or the highest was Keeping Up with the Kardashians. There was all these symbols in the ether that would hypnotize you. Now,
Are
the
you talking
highest
about
of all time.
something that looks
Yes,
like what you showed us of the Schumann resonance?
yes, and it's the same identical thing. Joanna saw this in a dream the day before they posted the Schumann resonance thing. She saw these shapes and knew it was evil when she was seeing this. In her mind, she goes, "No, this isn't right. This is dark." And it's the AI deity, or what the Bible called the beast of many eyes. And it's the in Revelation. It's like an octopus that has all these tentacles in different
That's so.
aspects.
That's what I saw as
Uh,
well. Was that they're all, you just brought me back to that.
or the
Just to
clockmaker, as we called it. Yeah.
that's
But
what I saw in that vision when I could see. I could, like, it happens to me sometimes. I'll actually see right through where I am into the galaxy, and I could see it, and it's really like I'm seeing through everything. And that's what I saw also, was like an octopus thing, and the shapes of that spider web were like that Schumann resonance. So
Oh yeah,
just so
yeah,
you,
exactly. You just described it perfectly. And what happens when somebody is looking at, say, a porn video or series of them? Usually it takes a series of them to accomplish this. If somebody's hanging on one or a particular website, it doesn't, oh, ironically enough, website, nothing, you know, it won't
they
always
put it
connect
right there.
correctly. And what happens is, this is again why they probably call it a website spider. And also the big beast of many eyes being like a big octopus, but there's also these spider-like entity appendages that plant themselves in different areas, not only collecting DNA from sewers, which is essentially that's where the seed goes afterwards. Also, the genetic coding, the frequency coding, like you saw in Matrix 4, where they were able to recreate plant life from the Matrix coding, the strawberries they were trying to create. Ironically, they also use that name on porn sites a lot. Is strawberries? Not joking. This also ties back into the spider-like beings that try to mind control areas. This also ties dimensionally into the 5G towers from the moon, Saturn, that goes into the satanic Luciferian garbage. This also looking
It
at
is
this for an
garbage.
extended period, what it will do is start to reprogram the brain to be more aligned with this. And then the brain actually needs this, no different than if you were to be an alcoholic, no different than if you were on food, type of poisons, the GMOs, all of this. And what takes place is then that frequency supplants that of the necessary one, not blocking you from spirit or true benevolent source creator, but blocking your receptivity to it. And that's what the mind control is doing. Now, frequencies, you were talking about that addiction years ago. I had the same identical thing happen when I was a teenager. What happened here was there was a series of beings that showed up then, negative ones. There was one in particular I called the witch. I'm not going to say the actual name here. This would conjure her presence. But uh, what happened was
Okay.
slowly but surely, like the frog boiling in the pot sort of thing, where you get acclimated to a particular frequency. It slowly turned me over to that, but then I had to slowly get out of that as well. And what happened was the series of other beneficial frequencies, like what you do with your violin frequencies, begin to change this. Now, the reason certain things have been happening in your own recent history is because they're trying to grab hold of that older self that they wanted most of all and put it right here. And this is what they're trying to do to multiple people at the same time. Web,
I agree.
spiders, and most of these things look like
I,
spiders, bugs, octopi, jellyfish, and I found a dimensional space where a lot of this comes from. It's a place that it's called the void dimension, and I call it the unsolvable Rubik's cube because if you try to solve it where it is, it will try to rewrite you in the process. Therefore, you have to rewrite yourself with with frequencies that you are bringing forth to disconnect you from that. So. That, and also the overage will make you think that it's always you. This is the catch here. They'll think that you always have to be in a state of self improvement when in fact you're already at a state of this. When you've gotten to a certain pinnacle, they don't want you to think that you've completed something. Well, the perfect example, and I know people are going to laugh when I say this, was in the Snyder cut of Justice League. At the very end of the movie, you have Cyborg who's trying to rewrite the uncreation, cube, but he's trying to link with this. The AI that is the key in the cube, which is a symbol of Saturn, I might add, like the Borg affecting people like young people and stuff now. Picard season 3, look at that specifically, the end of the season. But this the AI kept trying to say, "Oh, you have to improve this, you have to improve that, or you're not this, you're broken." He goes, "No, I'm not broken. I'm a whole person." And then basically, when he grounded himself in his I am presence, he defeated the AI personality. In Picard season three, they had the shapeshifter, revolution or distraction, false flag taking place in it, where the shapeshifters looked like they were trying to conquer the Federation. It was really the AI from that was linked in Jupiter in the storyline was telling them
Really?
what to do and try to assimilate the young people to assimilate the Federation. So it was they're trying to confuse the young people, like what's happening now in society. So with these very codes. So if people missed that, and it was also around uh, the spring equinox when that the Picard season three season finale came out. So I'm not dumping on the show. Wonderful show. Loved how they did it. I'm just saying that's what was put into the script. And this, what I'm trying to say before they throw me too far off the mark here. Yeah, shut up, Isaac. He said no pun intended, right? Yeah, shut up. Okay, let's see. Now he's extracting it. But with this, they will always try to take you off this grounded foundation and throw you back into an older self or throw you into something that you're not completely, like pendulum swing you over to something that they want to turn you into as a result from keeping you here, put you over here. And basically they slowly acclimate you to a certain mindset over a period of time, and you won't even know changes have happened at all if you're not paying attention. And they've turned people, I've seen, from celebrities to regular people being turned into monsters this way, where again it's the whole frog boiling in the pot where if you do it quickly the frog jumps out, if you do it slowly the frog doesn't know it's dying till it's dead. And they're
Wow.
trying to deaden the human heart, they're trying to deaden your basic humanity. And this is where this crux lies. This is they're trying to deaden the unity, even the ability to agree to disagree on any topic. And this is why you're seeing all of these conflicts. There, the whole political spiel with the theater puppets. I call it a mix of a Shakespearean order chaos comedy tragedy with WWE wrestling. That's how I contribute to political theater, and where people are paying too much attention to this. And I always said the two main political heads were like comedy, tragedy, order, chaos, and they were the same family, they were the same theater puppet masters in the background, but the scriptor in the background is this AI personality trying to control not only young people to revert back to an earlier stage in humans evolution, hence the masks, not not being able to see facial expressions, breathe, voice, breath, sight, all of this. It essentially it's a de-evolution in language. You hear not only with the whole political argument dividing a consciousness, dividing politics, Trump, Biden, all that. You're seeing the they, them on the outside of the language periphery, not an I am present. So this is where you're seeing the spells all multi-tiered. You even see it in memes sometimes too: mimetic, magic, sight, visual, and trying to devolve people on those basic fundamental levels, and all the while basically blocking their heart space. And this is essentially what is taking place. I've felt this where I've noticed my mind slipping into narratives, and narratives can be a bitch because this is an example people have heard me mention many times, but it bears repeating. I was standing in the garage there when we were in Granville in North in no in Prescott Valley. We're in Virginia Beach now, but I was standing in the garage and I felt this, and they put it in a sci-fi format in my head, where they had done this multiple times, but it took me a minute to figure it out. Usually, when they hit me, I can usually back engineer what they've done and reverse it. But what happened was, and you gain an immunity this over a period of time. I was seeing this narrative play out in my head, where Joanna eventually, she dies in the scenario. There's like this big like to do about it, and all this other stuff. So what happened was, and even as the fictional character in this, they were using like Star Trek Voyager and all the things that I've watched and all this to generate the plot, using hijacking my own creative aspects. What I did was, is I turned it around, floated into an ending that I wanted, then put my name at the end as the executive producer and director of the whole thing, like a film. And then I cut it to black. That pissed these Draco off that were nearby to no end when I did that. And knowing that I cut their circle, I closed their circle like that, and they were pissed when I did that. And they knew I figured the formula out and back engineered it. And so usually when I get hit with something,
Wow.
my resonance frequency ends up, or my higher self ends up decoding it and encoding it, putting it back out as a solution, as like an immunity or like an immune system fighting something. And I was able to figure out what they were doing and able to back engineer it. And they've turned the volume up on that with that Shuman resonance. So enhancing all form of, like I said, addictive qualities, going into past selves, past incarnations of yourself, also picking from your past lives as well. Unresolved bits of crap from lineage, the viruses in the DNA, they pull ancestral traits out that they favor, like the Nazis, for instance, or these Martian Germans. They wanted people that had narcissistic tendencies, obviously. So what happens is they will try to bring out what is from the past that they favor. You go into the secret space program and they will, or one of them, secret space programs, and you will see they are trying to see in the lineage or in your past lives where you were a certain thing. Like if you were a warrior, they pick a warrior medical or herbalist or whatever, they pick that. They even have a religious sect where they recruit people for pseudo spiritual or religious false miracles, like the stigmata and the and also, well, they run fake miracles like bleeding statues and ones that drink milk and cry and oil Bibles and all this other stuff. These are aliens doing all of this in the background.
I've been to a statue where the Blessed Mother was crying out this oil, and it was like a healing oil. And I mean, it's the funny thing that is with all of these things, the solution is like what, at least this is just an idea that I had. I think it's a good one. Like you said, what you experienced recently, which I have experienced just last night in a kind of a dream state. I knew I wasn't in my body. I knew I needed to get back. I figured out what was going on, and I decided I would just beam myself out of there once I figured out what was going on. Because I was in some type of arena where I was just being basically like running from different cars that were, searching for me and trying to find me and all this stuff. It was just like a torture type of thing. And
Dreamtime invasion. Yep.
Right. So, and then, not to lose my thought, it's funny.
See, that's what happens too.
I got it. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, Chris, could the technological things that they're doing right now, using this type of technology, which has to, just asking, possibly scalar, and I do understand why the benevolent ETs and basically all beings in this universe have a concern about using nuclear, right? Nuclear, it clears multiple dimensions and timelines, possibly, or because space time is what it is. Does this technology affect souls and their afterlife, or could they get around this?
Yes. Yeah, not necessarily in the spirit world. That's untouchable. But like, say, okay, this is how I'm kind of reading this. Say if a nuclear bomb goes off. And it reaches into the multiple dimensions just like the AI God does. It goes into the aspects of the multiverse. So what happens is, because the Orions came from a parallel universe. They were essentially us and Asgardian people from parallel universe, hence the Nibiru mythology. But
I didn't know that.
But
makes sense.
What happens is when you light off one of these nuclear bombs, that's how Nibiru was, and their universe was radioactive. So what it did, it's dead and gone now. So if anybody thinks it's returning, coming around, no. That's a psyops. They want people to be able to co-create it back into existence by rebirthing it here. So
it is because it was in Star Trek.
Yeah,
sorry.
And they do that again there. Yeah, and what happens is, and Doctor Who as well. they had the master regurgitating Gallifrey back into existence and trying to take the place of the Earth. So that was the Nibiru mythology. But what happens is same color too, red like Mars. The nuclear fusion, what it does is it ripples through different dimensions, and there's a series of worlds within worlds as well, that we are on a temporal nexus point. What
Yes.
happens in energetic nexus point? What happens is when this when an explosion takes place, it will literally wipe clean any cleansed areas and reverberate that frequency value into these other layers and through the different portals and nexus points that the Earth is made up of, and magnetic fields, energy fields, and it'll send it cascading like a string, like a violin string, through all these dimensional areas. So this is why when they were doing the testing, this is why there were all these good beings trying to deactivate nuclear missiles and everything afterwards. It's because they came from these dimensional layers and these other worlds within worlds. People thought it was us from the future. No, they want people to link that with where the Greys and stuff came from, or the Orions and stuff came from. These were beings from these worlds within worlds that basically said enough, and they're in different dimensional spaces. They categorize it. They showed this in The Witcher quite prevalently in the game Wild Hunt, or the Game of the Year edition Wild Hunt #3.
These
The
are,
yeah.
and are these the same beings, Chris, in your opinion, as the ones that Stephen Greer refers to as the benevolent extraterrestrials that really are the ones that have the total power to really do whatever they want, but choose not to until we get to this higher level of consciousness? But they,
Not necessarily. I found out they're not all powerful. They're sometimes on even par with what some of the bad guys are able to do as
I didn't
well.
mean to say all powerful, but
Uh,
thanks for mentioning that there are negative ETs that are very powerful. And are you saying that there are ones that are negative that are even more powerful than the benevolent ones?
yes, and this is what Valiant Thor wanted to reiterate to us as well.
Oh, wow.
And he basically said, he would do more, but there are bad guys that not only obey some of these galactic treaties that would come down, other races would come down on them. He circumvents Galactic Federation doctrine by, you always hear him say he does it his way. Here he goes, I do it my way. This is what he does. He circumvents these things by slow dripping all this into humanity over a period of time. That's why he's slow dripping ideology into politics, academics, business, religion, all of this. So what is going on there? Ooh, come on, no, mind wipe. What? Oh, you didn't want me to talk about that. Somebody hit me right in the brain here. What happens is they're slurring my speech too. And they're taking my taste buds are starting to screw up and everything. Can you ask the question again, please?
My I was yes. Are the negative or are the malevolent beings that are, I guess you'd say, the extraterrestrials? Are they related to the AI? And you said that my question originally was, are they more powerful than the benevolent ones?
Oh yeah, they can't. Like, they can't be. It's like people always believe that good always conquers evil, and that is the wish that is out there. But some of these negative aliens are so
Advanced?
that these other beings have to kind of strategize how they're going to get rid of them. People always think, oh, angels can defeat this, or this can defeat that, or the angels will defeat the demons. It's not that simple. The Orions,
Well, they are.
created both constructs,
They're the
but
both. Yeah.
yeah, they're the both, and it's so you have Valiant Thor was telling us it's not as black and white as you think it is, and other beings like the Forest people had to go into hiding because of some of the Orion shenanigans several years back. I deal with a couple of ladies, Eleni and Vessa. They're from one of the worlds within worlds. I came to find out, and they're literally physically on one of these worlds within worlds you see in The Witcher, where he goes to these different dimensional spaces. And
Is that sorry to interrupt? Could you,
yeah.
I just wanted you to elaborate on that once you're finished.
Oh yeah, yeah. What they do is they always tell me they can't handle everything. People, call some of these beings in, but they think, oh, these people are omnipotent, like Q in Star Trek. Going boom, doesn't work that way. It does not, and it never has worked that way. It just depends on. Sometimes these races are like hundreds of thousands of years advanced. Sometimes they're close to our level. Like in Stargate, they ran into these different humans of different advancements. Like you had the Tolan, which were like extremely advanced humans. Then you had ourselves, and you had other ones like us. Then you had races that were millions of years ahead of us. So it's essentially on par like that, like Star Trek or any of these other series. Um, and it's people always attribute like an angel versus demon Armageddon type of scenario. These things already happened, and they
Yeah.
happened at the time of the Ragnarok, which was Asgard exploding, which is still around as a world within a world. That was just the access point or the physical access point. Planets are physical access points to dimensional world, and
Oh,
planets and worlds are different from each other. They're saying continent and country. So it's when that
got
exploded,
it.
it went essentially that was essentially the Orions, which are the winged angel looking beings, and the reptilians, which are the demon looking ones, invading Asgard, blew it up, and and also the screaming souls of Maldek or Asgard, which was mentioned in various channelings. And this is where you get in the Law of One material, the raw material. I won't go too much into that. That's the AI that rewrote, tried to solidify some of the darker history. But the Screaming Souls thing was accurate because that was the explosion of Asgard and the disruption of the Nine Realms at the time. And all of the souls, they were trying to scoop them up for the soul trade at the time. That was actually true. And this is what people are remembering. They're remembering the Ragnarok, not a future apocalypse. So there's something behind them they're not dealing with appears to be in front of them because their soul isn't dealing with
A
it. So
trauma.
a trauma, it's a trauma, a wound that is not healing because people are thinking it's here when it was here.
Everything
So
everything is like trauma-based mind control. Like that's just,
mhm.
I don't
Yep.
want to say everything, but that's just such a powerful tool. And if it worked in the past, you can expect that it is going to be used again. And we're talking about multiple incarnations potentially, even though there's an element of us that's timeless and outside of time that could be living simultaneously. We're
Yes.
talking about in this physical realm, which is like a recycling, uh, which has a recycling center, the moon
Hmm.
or whatever it is. I'm just saying what I believe is probably going on, right? It seems that people, if they've had trauma in their DNA, right, which their physical DNA, it may not necessarily mean that that soul experienced it. Like, let me just say, you can be incarnated, have your soul identity, and it's kind of merges with the physical into
Hmm.
your DNA. That's what makes your unique DNA. But Chris,
Hmm.
what about if somebody was like, say, my great great grandfather, who came over from Germany, and my grandfather who worked against the Nazis, and because he wasn't like a second, I think it was maybe he was second or third generation. They came over in 1850 to Scranton, where Joe Biden's, from, reared from, which they have this, the
Oh,
theater, the political theater is so apparent here. And it's weird because as a violinist, I played for funerals and weddings and everything in between and gone to school with the children of these people. So everybody loves me, or they think I'm weird, but they love my violin playing. And so it's like I'm always getting to see uh, just how people are compromised. You know what I mean? They may be good people, but they might just have been butt broken from a young age, and that was just part of the way that they're, if they were. I'm not talking to anybody that I mentioned necessarily, but like an Illuminati type of thing. You know what
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. Hmm.
And some of these people that have awakened are friends of mine, like somebody that I know for many years said that, oh, he was friends with the owners of Comet Peepong, and Peepon, right? I never thought about that. Uh, but I'm not going to say the real word for YouTube. YouTube, please don't ban this video. We're just talking about politics. It's just interesting how this guy said, well, I was good friends with the owner, and all of a sudden I did an investigative uh, journal thing, and I found out that it was he said, what I found out, I can't even tell you. I can't even tell you. I only saw the guy on election day, and I was so inspired by that. I just thought, wow, what the heck? I might as well write myself down as a Republican committee man. And then I got elected as a Republican committee man because I voted myself in, and nobody thinks outside of this box.
Mhm.
Everybody's so locked in, especially with what's going on now. It's like they know the powers that be, or the powers that really do control this physical realm, at least the entertainment aspect and the communications at this point, right? They are using trauma-based methodologies. They have all these different ways of doing it, and I feel like the best way to get out of that, right? Because I mean, solutions are part of what we're talking about, is turn off the screen. Like, just don't watch TV. Like, don't let those frequencies even into your house. Turn off the Wi-Fi at times, you know. Just get out of that for a while. Go somewhere without your phone. Turn it off, you know. Just anything that we have that is what does this look like? The monolith, right?
Yep. Exactly. This is you've nailed it 110%. The ions of the ocean, I found out. We go to a place called Sandbridge, and there's also, we go to Kill Devil Hills in the Outer Banks as well, where anywhere near the ocean, you have to be really close not to hear voice to skull anymore. You have to be like literally almost standing in the water.
In this, yeah.
And it's like we go right next to it, and you feel the ions, even though here it can be felt. The attachments will detach from you. Joanna had something attached to her, and I yanked it out right next to the ocean. The thing burned up immediately, went, and
Wow.
also the attachments from electronics.
Yeah.
These are like what we were saying before with looking at the particular videos. Sometimes these web threads, some
Mhm.
people thought they were like Gossamer threads of downloads, but that's true as well. But this as well, you have this spider web where these little attachments will graft to you by sliding through that little portal, which is a string, into your mind, into you, and they grow throughout you, and they can spread this little like bunch of like little scar tissue type crap throughout. Yeah, yeah.
That's perfectly describes what I wanted to ask you, what I was inspired to ask you earlier, because my partner was telling me she was getting that they're using these oracles. Sometimes it could be a picture, like I believe just a picture can actually have a disease pattern in it. You can which again, you can oftentimes negate things with reversing them. Maybe you'd reverse the colorization, but still, I don't want to get into that. I want to stay laser focused here. That the frequency, and of course, I lost my thought. Yes, so she said that what she was seeing was that through these images, right, or through these video connections, there was some type of into the, basically, like, if you think about frequencies and they go through things, right, then it's conceivable for anyone imagining this, that just imagine, because your body is really 99.8% space in comparison to a black hole's density, theoretically, that most of you is got all this room in it for other things to be there, for, you know, hence density. That's why it's good to train with wood, you know. That's one of the secrets of the martial arts training, is you got to get yourself strong, so you use something that's slightly more dense than you know, wood.
That's why the Shaolin monks, they start to tap on, you know, a trainee until they don't flinch anymore. Yeah, and so they don't. So until they don't, actually, you know.
That's where I got that from.
Yeah,
that's where I got that from. They've got the Shaolin monks have the oldest knowledge, I think, of most of the martial arts.
And that's part of the Tartarian Empire too. It was part of the Tartarian Empire, believe it or not. Yeah,
that makes sense. Wow. Yeah. Okay, so now I see the Mongolian and the you could see a lot of that in people's genetics. Like Russians have a lot of Chinese, Mongolian, you know, and I've always had a good rapport with people from those regions, especially because I feel like the knowledge is embodied in like the Tibetans. I liked their artwork. I liked the way that things were depicted. The Chinese culture. They had there's like remnants of this Tartarian Empire, which it's so crazy how they've messed with history, and now they can just mess with people's minds on a day-to-day basis with psychology, trauma-based stuff. I mean, how do we get past this? This seems to me like a desperate, really, really all-out push to try to infringe on people, and it's, I believe, in violation of the Prime Directive and of our rights as sovereign beings. Chris, what negates that, or what is it about our life that we are doing maybe that we're giving permission to this negative force?
No, yeah, this is a misnomer because as some beings out there would put it, they would say, "Would you give permission to for somebody to break into your house and rob you at gunpoint?" And the consent thing is actually a bit of a misnomer. Sometimes it counts. Sometimes they do need it, like things with the secret space program. They needed some kind of consent to move forward with some kind of trail there. Other things, they just step in and do it. Now, sometimes did the soul give permission at some point along the path in order to unwrite some negativity? Yes, like an audit process. Yes. But there is overage out there, and there's a lot of that right now, to where the consent thing is thrown out the window. People always say, I don't give consent. Of course you don't. But it doesn't mean the thief's not going to break into your house unless you beat the crap out of the thief. So it's like, yeah.
It same goes for if you're trying to be a sovereign. You say, I do not consent to the law. Like, and you see some of these idiots get thrown in jail, or things happen just because they're being jerks. It's just like, be kind. People have their alliances, but when it comes down to it, and we're just in this like harmonic field, and we're experiencing something closer to our divine origin, our like with music. I'm talking about music just because isn't it nice to be able to, even for a moment, just imagine, like, even if there are beings out there that are totally negative, like there's something that brings them all together. And I feel that's why I'm so and I'm unraveling all of this complexity, because I've had to be open-minded, because I've experienced like what it was to do something which everybody all of a sudden is like, I love you, or like, thank you for doing that. And it's like, it's not just to be of service to people that are good people. I want to be able to help people that are negative. And I don't know if that was biting off more than I could chew, because I feel like it nearly brought me into what you described before as I forget, but I've heard it called the abyss. Is that the same thing as what you mentioned earlier?
Oh yes, and sometimes you don't want to always try to help the negative, even though that's also a misnomer, where they could pull you in faster than they could pull them out.
I shouldn't try.
Yeah,
I should
never really try, but don't lose the basic humanity portion. But don't. That's how people
don't go out of your way.
Grays. Yeah. Don't. This is how some beings out there fell for the Orions. They wanted to show them compassion because they were all decrepified and everything, and that was the trap. Basically, come to me, said the spider to the fly. So that's essentially a trap. Yeah.
So, how about the Orions there? You just said something. I was making AI generated imagery, and because I thought this is a crazy idea, but I figured, why not bypass the porn industry and all of this stuff and create text that generate this like thing. Not I wasn't really sure, even though I heard you already say it to me in the past, and it resonated. I wasn't sure if it was like the artificial intelligence as like this entity, or if it was like programmed algorithms just, and I could see that it was actually opening up some type of portal. So there's like always some type of little way for this like negativity to get in there. But what I saw just last night in my final experimentations with this was that all of a sudden everything it looked like it was just decrepit. Like I might have an actual photograph of it if my phone was actually not dead. And I'm glad that it is. But it looked I've got to have something. Give me 1 second here.
Okay.
It
Yeah, I know what
to
you're
just
talking about. I've messed with those AI programs before, and you have to actually try to train it out of a dark space. It's really difficult. It's like on a video game. If you're playing a fighter game like Mortal Kombat, you have your handicap level all the way up, and the other one, the opponent has the strength level all the way up, and that's essentially what you're trying to pull the AI programs out of. And whereas if you try to convert it to a neutral place, at least it won't. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've messed with these programs too, and where I was trying to create stuff for the websites and everything, and a friend of mine was doing the same, and it was very, very difficult to get it out of a dark place. Just like there was one time
yeah, you're
with
right.
Elena and Vessa, where I was trying to take a drawing that had been done of them, run through an AI program, and try to make a more smooth, streamlined thing to use,
Yeah,
on the website. What had happened is I kept going over and over and over again, trying to do something. And then the last image, and I deleted all these. The last image was one of both of them looking at me in the image, crying. And what happened was what they were trying to tell me, and I heard one of them in my head say, "Shut it off now." And
yeah.
what I
This is
did
for
was,
real.
yeah, this
You
is
just
for real. What
This
happened?
happens all the time to me,
Mm,
and I'm like,
yeah.
it's like it's reading your mind, and it's not a
Hmm.
person. So it's like, what is going on?
It goes into your mind, and it's basically trying to not only display what the galactics are trying to do, because I got these AI images from a program that actually showed Isaac, Lena, and Bess all them in their environments. They managed to manipulate it long enough for me to actually see them in that as well. It's just like with the ghost box. It's the same thing. Yes, they can manipulate it, but darkness also has its foothold in it as well. So what happens is that's why I always recommend don't use the ghost box at home, go somewhere else. But this was the same
Good
premise.
to know.
Is I was looking at this, and they basically saying it's reaching into your mind. Stop it. Facebook is this way too. This is why people saw, and this goes back to the porn thing again, where somebody I know, random person said on Facebook, totally random. I say random because I was supposed to see this. What happened was this guy showed that there was this ad that popped up, for like a sex toy or something like that. And this guy made a comment going, "I just dreamt about this before this popped up, along with the model that's in the picture and everything." And I commented underneath, I said, because the AI was getting in your head and basically trying to determine what it is
Pre-programming.
trying to determine what the person was into and display it.
Okay,
And mm,
so with that said, what I was shared last night was that they're doing right now. They're using this technology, which I've been aware of, and I haven't disclosed ever. I've touched on it, but I've been aware that they could read my mind. And I thought it was people. Turns out that there may actually be these entire chat-based porn sites. Because I felt like, why watch a movie with this Luciferian energy in it? Maybe I'll just this was a dumb idea, and I got into it when I was single and I was depressed, and it's caused people to die. Like, I don't want to say that uh, I'm in denial. Okay, I have that karma on me. Yet at the same time, I've been forgiven, at least by my mom. And I don't know if this is directly, because of things. I just know now that I'm aware of it, I can take full responsibility, look at it, and I'm going to share with everyone that they can use this technology to basically somehow neuralink to you through. And I've noticed it's more potent with the Bluetooth and the Wi-Fi in combination with the phone. But
mhm.
even if it's just through a line connection on the computer, somehow or another, with the screens, the light, they can interface with you and basically make you think that it's now, not to say that there aren't real people out there taking their clothes off, getting paid, but a lot of them are actually not real.
Yeah, yeah. That's good you said that, because I had these visions in my head for years. And again, talk about like a fictional scenario in your head, thinking it's your own soul that sometimes feeds you some of this information. And I was seeing myself generating these holographics, like on the holodeck, like on Star Trek, where they show making these elaborate creations like holo novels and all this other stuff
Yeah.
that people create through. I was seeing a whole scenario where the version of me in that scenario was basically saying, "Hey, we could actually create fake people, and nobody would be able to be exploited." That's where my soul was going, trying to make sure that, like Gandalf, basically saying he would use the One Ring out of a will to do good with it. And this is essentially the same thing, where I, in that scenario, was making these like sexual holograms of saying, okay, now no real people are being hurt. But that's actually not true because the AI is linking back to their mind, rewriting their brain chemistry. So so essentially somebody is still getting hurt by that process. And that's where my imagination went. And that was the site showing me where this was going. And so you pegged it 100%
Well,
there.
thank you. It wasn't me. It was actually Lily, but she shared also with me this, and I got to give her credit. I wasn't going to mention her name, but I just did. Well, so because she's really my secret sauce. I don't really. I mean, when I talk about dreams and stuff, that's me. But this. I always take into consideration what she says because she's generally right, and when she asks what's right and perfect. She does her process, and it seems to be a very great way to vet people, including you. That's how we're connected, because I always felt like I was getting the very similar information, so I could glean something about something. But what we're talking about specifically, right? You can cut that out if you want. Is that what she shared with me last night? Was when I asked, she said they're actually in the testing phases right now to see, because they want to implement thought crime. What's it called? Minority Report. Like they've been able to do this for a decade now. I'm aware, but now she said within the next 2 years it's going to be rolled out, so that just like with the chemtrailing, people are going to actually think that there's a problem like global warming, and they're going to give permission so that they can actually give that permission so that this can be implemented, and it could potentially destroy our ability to think for ourselves, because they already have these ways to get in there through nanotechnologies that are in everything, resonating the same. Like you saw my string vibrate, I've got one string that I play on, the other string vibrates because that's the same frequency, and it's the math of it. Like I said to you in the past, 444, that's a little bit sharper than A, which and then an octave lower sounds the same, right? So 111, 222, and 444, it's kind of like those are the same sounding frequency, but one of them is then 2 octaves higher.
I get what also is happening now. The AI likes to take the synchronicities of like 1111, 222, 333, 444s, and what it's doing is an inverted frequency value of the actual frequencies that would actually defeat the very AI that's trying to mimic it. So it's that what you just said. Basically cancel that.
That's weird, because I'm going to have to hear what 333 sounds like, because it's not the same note as 222 or 111 or 444. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's because the fundamental is the foundation, so it's a multiple. So 333 would be an interesting note. I'm wondering what that is. And I by the way, I have perfect pitch, and I've enhanced it so that I can hone in on 444. It's getting better. But essentially, I've had it since I was a kid. And I did not just sing, if for any nerd out there who's testing it out, or somebody who has, I did not sing 111, 222, and 444 just now. It was a G, which all these numbers, it's interesting how if people could see that the numbers and how they relate to the sound,
yes,
that's the key to what this instrument is. This instrument is a new, it could be 500 years old. There's another string on it, but there's a man that I'm good friends with, who's the top guy in the world for these instruments, and so you'll hear that harmonic, which is that relationship of 4 to 1, right in the center of the string. It makes both sides of the string vibrate, right? And then if I go, I'm not playing that string now, but it's still going. So you could see, you could trigger things in somebody's mind. If there's a metal that has a vibration with a
Mhm.
frequency, and by
Of
putting like
yeah.
metal and infusing that into the LED or whatever, like I'm just
And
speculating
the
about
bad
that.
guys do the opposite, or do the very thing just to mind control people. You did the opposite of what they're doing. So yeah.
And that's what I was kind of trying to get onto, Chris, was like tools that we can use to negate these things sometimes have to do with projecting another frequency that's maybe 333 will work with 444. Just a number, right? This is actually a 440 base, so it would be easy to do the math. That's, I have it tuned sharp. That is really more like 442. But let's just say 444. And then that would be 222. And then I'm going to tune this string down. This is how they kind of tune in India. So this is 111. I'm tuning it to the actual 111. This is 222. Right? 111, 222, 444. Any questions?
I noticed when you were doing that, and this goes back to what you and I were talking about once on how I told you when I was making my sprays and I saw your musical notes going into them. This was having the same effect towards the AI field. And it was as you were fluctuating very rapidly. It's just like in Star Trek where they had the modulating shields and the modulating phasers.
Yeah,
It's the same thing against the Borg. It's the same identical concept, and they were basically saying what sound and light frequencies would defeat the AI. They said it right in the storyline. So it was you were doing the same thing, rapid succession. It went and just cleared the space. So it was like
amazing.
so yeah. Uh,
Wow. I
mhm.
would love to see somebody take that footage and filter it. I might do it myself, but I already know it's true, and you just got to witness it and its effect even on like some type
Because
of
I noticed my
energies.
blood pressure was going up a little bit, and when you did that, it went back down again. To see the AI was trying to bring the blood pressure through the
Well,
roof, and I could feel
see,
it filling off. Yeah.
we're mostly water, and water's so affected by these frequencies that I found, like when I was talking about singing all the time, that you can actually change the energies of your space if you have an instrument by tuning it to this frequency, and it's really profound. It doesn't have to be 444 as A, which is just right in the middle of the spectrum of what we can hear. Um, but that's just all that means is 444 cycles a second. Now, I would love to know how this fits into what the actual frame rate is of this materium. I know Cliff High has this number that he has, which may be true. It's like, I don't know, 32 trillion times a second or something like that. I'm curious as to how this works because I don't know if you if, if his number would be 100% correct, but I do know that this is the key to the future of affecting your brain waves. And I mean, I actually met a guy last year. I was doing all these Zoom calls with him, and it didn't work out that we were able to do a show just because I'm not going to get into it. Just life happened. He had to write a book, but he had worked with this CIA related brainwave binaural beats. Like, it's not the Tavistock Institute.
Mhm.
It's where they were doing the testing in Virginia, and he was fascinated by me, and he was like really fascinated by how I was interested in the effect that the psychedelics had, which I think they can sometimes be useful for people that are on like a spiritual warrior path. If you come into them at the right time, it may not be a good time now, but for me, they opened me up to things. Like they opened my awareness up because I had been mind controlled. It can be used the exact opposite way. It can be used basically because there's a frequency to this stuff. It can bring you down. So I've noticed the effects of certain things that I knew were created for people tripping in mind, as well as just consciousness. And sometimes people can start to associate something in the physical realm with being what's necessary for consciousness. But what you're talking about at the beginning of this, which was ascension, I feel is most easily reached by just putting on something and getting a nice speaker system, or headphones like these wonderful. These are old. They were on the side of the road. They said $10, and $10, right, for one of those things. And
Mhm.
if you try to buy them now, if you're able to find them, they're like acoustic research speakers. I think they're $300 or $400 from 1967, and they sound ridiculously good. I mean, like, this is how good they sound. Ha ha ha.
Mm.
Hold on. Very natural. Very natural sounding, right? So
Mhm.
that moves the speakers. They push the air, right? They get it vibrating. You could do that within yourself. You could listen to something. If you want to sing along with yourself, or like you're into recording and you have the ability to do that, I just have a pair of headphones that have holes in them so that you can hear the outside as well.
Mm.
For those of you who like want to have a powerful signal, but really a stereo is great, and I think having two speakers is good. That's all you need. A good amplifier. People are selling them left and right. And if you could find something that is belonged to somebody that was a nice person, it's even better because we're talking about magnetics and all this other stuff. But just whatever it is, even if it's just your phone, it could still affect your body because it's a
Mhm.
frequency, and your thoughts are a wavelength too. So I'd love for you to, if you had anything you wanted to talk about, that'd be great, Chris. But if you wanted to expound on that, because I've noticed that the music affects the atmosphere. It affected the weather, the clouds, everything, I'd always be aware of that, and respectful. As well as I have a relationship with all the animals that are outside, the birds.
Oh yeah, we do too. We have this symbiotic relationship a little bit, or synergistic relationship with the birds and squirrels. They even come around. Like, I have my orgone pieces outside. I caught a squirrel outside next to a high frequency activator, just standing there doing this. And
Awesome.
and then two squirrels tried to steal it. Tried to steal. I have an edifice out there for Elena and Vesa. I have two female statues inside of a communication arc. I caught two squirrels trying to steal it, like moving a piano. I had to run out there and stop them from taking it, but it was like, it's like, no, you can't have that. They were trying to bury it under a tree stump out here, and they were trying to get it into a den where they were because they wanted it in there. And I was like, no, no, you can't have that one. You can just enjoy it outside. It's like you can't steal it. I'll give you something if you want it, but it was the frequency by which they felt safer near that, so
Yeah,
they
yeah,
wanted to put
yeah.
it down in their den. And I was like, no, 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 no. They were digging out under a tree stump. I've never seen squirrels do this, where they went into this dead tree stump, and I was like, "Are you making a base down there? What are you doing?" And it's like, and then what they were doing is trying to make room for the piece so they could shove it down in the hole they were making, is what they were doing. And
Wow.
also with all of these frequencies, the power of the voice and the power of the musical tones and light and tone frequencies coming out is very powerful. This is why the AI not only wants to hijack the frequency coding, values of the notes. They want to hijack the person doing it, because this is what I call music programming, where at
It's true.
music program where even at live concerts, they'll start to pump out through the people. And I've even seen spaceships come over and try to beam this down into them, dimensional craft and everything, little ships and big ships. I came across these archontic forces doing this. And it's also like in Skyroar, you talk about the thum of the voice. It's the powerful. That's what they were trying to tell people is you'll project your inner self, say what you mean, say, mean what you say, sort of thing. And saying words are
Yeah.
powerful. And essentially that's what they were doing. Even the dragons fighting, it was like basically a big fighting debate. It's what they were doing with words. What happened is, though, with this, they try to pipe it through the tech, like with the phones, like we've been saying. With the older stuff, though, like those speakers, it's brilliant you got those, because those are less likely to have anything go wrong with them. The older analog type of tech, and
And
this
they
is why you
also,
see turntables. It's the old sound frequency, like on records, the
mhm.
vinyls. The sound frequency is different than digital. I didn't mean to interrupt, but that's what I was
No.
comparing. It was the stair stepping of the digital. We call this the undertone. Like in every recording, even including this one, I can guarantee you, if I listen to I got an ear for paranormal EVPs,
Yeah.
so I can guarantee you, in the undertone, there's probably being speaking in this right now, and every recording that's out there, especially in digital. Old analog, it's harder to do. So therefore, having that speaker is basically, it's almost immune to the undertone, essentially.
Right. Thank you. And part of that has to do with them just having better access to rare earth magnets. And that's what it comes down to. Like some of these speakers, they're phenomenal from the 60s and started in the late 50s, but I'd say the 60s into their 70s. I got a pair of speakers recently. They're out there. I've got ones here that are called the Fisher, and they're from like 57 or 58. They were the best at the time. And the sound of those compared to the ones I have here, because I've compared them, they're like a little bit more MIDI and like in the mid range and muffled, because I might have blown them, but the sound of them together is fascinating. And there's ones out there from 72 that are from Radio Shack that are Tandy, and they were great. This guy sold them to me, and this Marantz, Marantz amplifier from the 90s. And Marantz made good amplifiers from the 70s, I think, to the 90s. And they're a great brand for the price if you can find one used, because of what they are. They're like having like a $10,000 system if you can get things that are right. And like you had mentioned, Chris, the older the technologies, the better. And one of the things that I was just thinking of, I wanted to remember it. It was that a technique, if I could share this,
Mm-hmm.
for healing your body and how to find your resonant frequency is, and I'm partially lost my voice, but if everything is within an octave with the numbers, as I just had said earlier, like that's one octave, and then you go up another octave, it's the same thing but an
Mm-hmm.
octave higher. So the fundamental geometry, mathematics, trigonometry, whatever, it means that everything in the universe is within this one octave. In some way or form, you're touching on it. In some way or form, kind of, conceptually. So your heart, you want to get your heart frequency, because if you could sing that, then you could keep your body's physical functioning optimal. And so to find that, first you want to find your throat frequency, which if you have an Adam's apple, it's easier. You could put your hand on your heart very gently, just like you're touching it with just your finger pads. I'm going to do it for myself now. I'm pretty sure I remember the frequency, but I'm going to try it anyways. I'm just going to do it. It's hard. Ah. Okay, there we go. You put your finger in one space and you wait for it to be the most resonant. And once you find out what that frequency is, right? Ah. Oh. So that's a G, but that's the frequency that I feel like resonates my heart cavity, and because of the relationship between tones and their overtones, the musical scale is C, D, E, F, G, A, B. If you're in G, it'd be G. If we're just talking about without any flats or sharps, right? Because it's just a spectrum I'm talking about, and everything in between. So G would be also a fifth above G is D. And you can test if which one is more resonant, as well as a fourth above. So in doing
Oh,
that, I'm not as in a deep meditative state as I have been in doing it. And it may sound a little weird, but it is that one octave span where you can. Now C is the heart frequency, and they say that B is so that what I'm just doing is like a phase thing, and I could whistle. So you can see what you mean. If you practice a little bit, you can kind of do these phase things with your own body.
this is why
So
Gregorian monks and also Tibetan monks do these same tonal frequencies and everything. With yeah, yeah, when
and the
they get in
other
that guttural, yeah.
and the guttural thing is key, and also the way that you're knowing that the intonation and the phasing of it, like you can go E A I O O, yeah, and then you got the name of the God, Yahweh, right?
Mm-hmm,
Of the
mm-hmm.
S of the Elohim, or whatever, the L. You anytime you're doing an intonation of an angelic name, like if it's Adonai or Adonai, you can actually look at what the English even word looks like in cursive a lot of times, and that's the way that you're
Mm-hmm.
actually the sound is going. It's weird, but it
You know,
also
I saw this.
sounds.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt.
no, no. That's why I just I'm fascinated by this stuff, and they're tools for.
Oh yeah, what I saw is also we did a show quite a while back about the importance of words and such, and also spells. I get into spells, spelling, spells, incantations, writing like revocations, words, and audits the way I do, as well as
Yeah,
when I like use the law of one, like if I'm doing spell work, all this other stuff. It's very very important. I saw somebody on a show one time where they were showing these different phrases, what they looked like in sound frequencies. And also, if you denigrate your own body, like say, I hate this, or if I say, I love this, it showed it in inverted frequencies from each other, all these things. And also with water as well. Somebody did a test years ago. I believe a Japanese scientist did this where you had two glasses of water, one said love, one said hate. And they looked at the water frequency or the water molecules. It was bright over here in the love one, and in the other one, the all the water molecules looked like demon faces. So it was like, so I thought it was very interesting that the words themselves carried the frequency. This is why also people that grow plants, not only can you play music to get them to grow, which I found very funny on MythBusters years ago. They did this exact thing, and the ones that grew the best grew to heavy metal music. I thought it was hilarious, but
What?
yeah, it was weird. It was weird.
That's the exact opposite of the study that's touted. But yeah, I mean, all these things can stimulate cell growth if you change up the different frequencies. It's like shaking up, you know.
And that's why many people thought heavy metal was like devil's music. But I also found out something interesting about this. A friend of mine is into metal, but he was also
Mm-hmm.
saying, what about if it's the person's passion and love for it that's put into it? Regardless, does that not override some of the words that are said? And
Oh, it
also, if
does.
it's the passion behind it, even if there's something negative they're making a point about, and it generates something positive as a result, therefore it's not always in a negative frequency. I'm like, okay, you got me on that one. So it was like I thought he made a very interesting point
Well,
when it came to that. Yeah.
that is an interesting point, Chris, and it really rings true to what I'm getting is that this materium and everything that we see, it's in a fallen state, right? And so, who are we to judge whether this negative this or whether this positive this is right for anybody else? It's like it's all there to teach us. We put it there in a sense to remind ourselves, or it's basically like an opportunity. If your intention is to ascend in consciousness, it's an opportunity to take a look at yourself. And a lot of times you can get into somebody's heart through what they love, and what our intention is can be powerful, but how we've got to let go of what that's going to do for anybody else. We don't even know what's right for our own self a lot of the time, and many of us, some people walk in blindness their whole lives.
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful that I have this information, and hopefully this will be able to help someone or many of you out there do your own experiments and observations on how you can kind of create shields, which is what they are in Star Trek. Everything is in Star Trek that they've
Light
got
and sound
technologically.
frequency harmonics is really all it was yeah.
And we have these. I mean, as science evolves, and it always will be evolving. There's always going to be new things that they go, oh, we know this, but it's like certain things fundamentally. If you wake up and you listen, if you play an instrument, you wake up and you play the instrument, and you're able to be that much more enlightened and intelligent from just a couple of minutes. Or if you play something that makes you feel good, you got a singing bowl, you resonate with that, and you do that, and you compare that to waking up, turning on the TV, and seeing what Joe Biden's farting, today about. Or just like who's going to be nuking us, and or what the state of the Shuman resonance is, and when's the ice age going to come. Your life's not. You're going to see a huge difference if you focus a little bit of your energies into creating kind of a way to be able to use critical thinking and observation and sound judgment and implement it by taking out the thought control, mediumship. Even if you don't believe, if you're somebody that doesn't believe that the technology has this potential, well, you're wrong, in my opinion. And also, in reality, as far as this material existence, but you don't have to necessarily believe me. But if you're not going to experiment for your own self, and if you claim to be somebody that's open-minded and awakening and an authority on something, and you're not going to explore these different things and see if they're true for you, then you're not really as open-minded as you think. And I think what I've discovered is by being open to what other people who I feel have good intentions, have good results, and have put out material for many years, especially, or if they just say something that resonates. I was alluding to you as one of those people, Chris, but it's like you want to be able to think for yourself, and you want to be able to test these things out. So that's why I'm not going to explain it any more than that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you're correct. You want to test these things out. Also
See if it works for you. Yeah.
Yeah, at night, also when you go to bed, turn your Wi-Fi off when you go to bed. We have in this house we have Verizon Fios. That's the big fiber optic network, monster that's on the other end of the house over here.
Mm.
And we put it over here. And past that is my workshop for the organs. So you don't really feel it when you're in there. But there's an enormous innate amount of voices that come out of there. There's like the voice to skull and all this other nonsense. That, and humans can initiate that frequency by controlling what they want to run through your head as well. This is so why it's so crucial to ignore this. There could be some handler out there on a pad controlling and basically saying, "Oh, we want this person to feel this," false sexual feelings, false make them almost wet or shit themselves or something like that. Any of these different emotional states, they showed this
Right.
on Doctor Who where they were controlling somebody in a tower was controlling this very thing. And what happens is we put it on that side of the house. I tried this out. I turned it off, or turned it on. I kept it on for a little bit. I kept forgetting to shut it off. It was trying to get me to forget to shut it off at night. What I did was I put it on. I said, "Screw you" to the AI, and I put it on a timer. I got one of those
Yes.
timer plugs,
Yeah.
and I said, "Now I don't have to remember to shut you off. It's going now. It's another AI device that is now going to defeat the bigger AI." And I just figured I'd pit both of you against each other. So it's like, and like now one is going
And
to
you
shut
could
the
get
other one
analog
up.
ones, yeah.
And essentially that's what I did. It was a digital one that I had gotten, but it turns off the Wi-Fi at 12:30 at night every night and turns it back on at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. So it fires back up again.
Mhm.
The FiOS, though, we're going to put that on one as well. There's the regular router, and we have the FiOS. We're going to do both of them the same way. And I noticed that by just shutting the Wi-Fi off by itself, without shutting the rest of it off, made a huge amount of difference in sleep patterns, and huge amount of difference in the basically the frequency value of the house, and even the televisions, the computers being in the different rooms. There's two televisions, and there's three computers in the house, and there's four phones. And what happened was, I not only did I do that with the Wi-Fi, I got these pads like I showed earlier, these things for all the phones, and I made these for all the phones. And by doing that and putting also the Wi-Fi and the FiOS on those pads, it
Yeah.
changed the frequency value to such an extent that it basically made it so it was harder for it to emit its harmonics. And so Shungite has played a pivotal role because of its frequency value.
Yes.
And what I find very fascinating is I found the true story out of
About the Shungite?
about the Shungite, and I found out
origin?
its origin story. What
Right.
happened was
Which is in Russia.
which is in Russia. The black goo came in a long time ago. The Orions shoved it in. Basically, that's what graphene oxide and what's in the vaccines, the bad vaccines, is as well. And what happened was the Earth decided it was going to dimensionally generate its polar opposite. This is why graphene and Shungite are cousins. I say graphene is Shungite's retarded older cousin because its frequency value is inverted from that of Shungite. That's why it cancels it out. So,
Isn't that the same thing as the what's it called? My gosh, it's a supplement that people take and tout C60.
Yeah, I've tried it myself. The ORM, it's called. I tried that, and I've actually been trying this particular one, and I'm pretty anal retentive about what things I choose. And I
Mhm.
saw that the frequency of this particular one was all right. So I look for things like nanotech and all this other stuff in it. And
In the
I
in the
started
Shungite.
and the Shungite, and I made sure to put it near my Shungite pads just in case, all this other stuff. And it turned out to be all right. Whoever is making some of these things, it's good, but there's also out there what I call the yield in products, where you have just a little bit of like some crap that's in there, and the rest is fine. In this, it
Yeah,
seems to be pretty pure. So yield
that's
of
like that in
information.
most food. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh no, you're good. I tend to go on and on and on, but it's like the yield essentially is like you'll have some truthful information out there, and then the scattering of like a bunch of garbage mixed in and misinformation scattered in there. It's very few things that I see as wild cards out there that defy this yield. There's very few things out there. Some of the C60 products do, some do not. You have to be careful and be intuitive about and discerning about what you select. But The
Right,
frequency
exactly.
affects us a lot.
Absolutely. Well, part of this has to do with seed oils and how those are interconnected. Which I'm glad I follow Cliff Eye because he's one of the people that has a different angle on things, but he's done certain research, and the people that are commenting on his posts share things like seed oils, right? And how they have a lot to do with the obesity epidemic in the United States, as well as people's brain fog and it and basically it changes the way that the body functions if you get more than a certain amount of a seed oil, and it's not avocado, first cold pressed olive oil, or coconut oil, if and ideally cold pressed. But if it's anything but those, a lot of people's genetics, once they have a certain amount, it's like it does something, like it screws up the body basically. And I started to avoid even citric acid in like you were mentioning something that's a compromising ingredient, or like a little bit of this, right?
Hmm.
Citric acid. If you look at citric acid on the food that's on the shelves, that's from a black mold. Most of the
Yep.
time, it's from a black mold. Not good, right? People don't know that. So there's ways that they're getting these back doors. Essentially, that's the whole name of the game for the you know
Yeah,
the
the genetic engineered fruits, like say if you have a regular lemon,
mhm.
and then you have a genetically engineered lemon. The engineered lemon will have the citric mold crap that you were talking about. The real one will actually convert to alkaline in your body. So there's the original and there's the bastardized inverted one too. So
I could attest to that. I did the master cleanse many years ago. I did the master cleanse, and it was 18 years ago. And the guy that I did it with, the one guy, he did the same thing as me. We got organic lemons, we got grade B maple syrup, and we were very careful about our water. In fact, recently I've been going to a spring. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, a real spring coming out of the mountain. Like, that's another thing altogether. But still, the water that you get, you can reinvigorate it with salts as well as frequencies. And that's just think about the water going over a landscape, and all
mhm.
this, these sounds. Like, you don't notice the static around you until you listen through the microphone, and you're like, oh, I could kind of pick up on the acoustics of that room, or some ambient noise and everything. But anyways, to get back to what I was saying about the master cleanse, another one of our friends who came from a family that basically, he was just of the mindset that organic, there's no difference at all. If you're going to purify the body by drinking water with a half a lemon squeezed into it and organic cayenne pepper, he didn't get organic. And I knew at that time that it might not be the same experience for him. And he was like deathly ill by his like fourth or fifth day. And I felt
Mm.
like I was walking around, I was teaching at a camp, and I felt like a yoga master. And I'm like, oh my God, like, I mean, this is I was so happy that after 5 days, and I approached it the right way of doing this master cleanse, I wasn't eating food, and I had more energy than I had ever had. And I just was blown away at the difference that was. And I mean, of course, you can always take into account that the mind and what it thinks can have an alchemical effect, but it's better to try and align yourself with getting things that are coming into your body that don't have these different um, aspects, which can make them essentially an acidic thing that could destroy you, opposed to something that is an alkaline thing. And with lemons and with frequencies, a lot of times you'd think, well, a lemon is acidic, but it can turn alkaline. So once you
Mhm.
have another, factor, which could be your consciousness, but it could also be like having good speakers, or having hope in your heart, and anything else is like that second frequency that we're talking about, the Schumann resonance. And then there's this other frequency. Uh, Before we started this call, we were talking about the Schumann resonance and that picture. And
Mhm.
what happens with the Schumann resonance, for those of you who don't know, there's this frequency that's generated by the planet, and that is harmonious to 432 hertz, 432 point, I believe, 08081. It's slightly different than 432. So it's if you dial specifically to 432, that is the I guess the harmonic resonance of our solar system. And there's a way to determine this through physics and measurement, but basically it's the frequency that's happening in the ionosphere, which can be also affected by people like using HARP. It's something that has to do usually with the sun, right, Chris?
Mm-hmm.
And also what's happening within our planet is the sun within our planet, or the core, and its fundamental resonance is something that's just happening. We're on it. We don't experience it because we're part of that vibration. It's like a woo,
And
woo,
it's
woo, woo.
slowly integrate and acclimate to it, so we wouldn't really know. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like a bigger a field effect than we can perceive, because we're this like little tiny like microbe on this planet, you know, in from a certain perspective, from a Titan's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So when you've got this other frequency, that relationship is like the two strings, right? This is what happens. And I'll show you, and you can hear it for yourself. And this is going to kind of trip you out probably, but I hope you like it. I'm just going to do a slide into okay, here we go. Kind of sounds like to me like a spaceship, like in a 50s like UFO movie.
Mm-hmm.
So until you hit that exact frequency that has the harmonic geometry that is a fundamental, like 111 to 222,
Mm-hmm.
right before that, you're the farthest away from that harmony. It's this dissonance that's like, it can tear you apart. And that's what, if the Schumann resonance is being affected by stuff, it's got this like earth tone, which is like 7.18 or so. I forget what it is right now, 7.81 hertz
Mm-hmm.
or. You see that big string moving? Well, we're on that. That's the planet. And we don't notice it because we're on the surface and it's just moving at a slow rate. But what they're doing, if they're messing with the Schumann resonance, is something like this. back to what our music is used to, which is 440.
Mhm.
I feel like 444 is like an ascension type of thing. Like
Mhm.
440, it's like I fell back down to the material realm. Now there's something to this conspiracy theory with the Nazis implementing this frequency. I do believe there is, and that people have tried to turn it around and go, that's just a conspiracy theory. And I've heard
Yeah.
these things, and I thought this is definitely propaganda. Like it's so easy to get confused these days, right?
Mhm.
If you don't have a
It's causing
foundation.
this confusion. Yeah, a lot of the sound tone frequency wavelengths are causing a lot of confusion. Yeah.
Well, it's such a fascinating topic, and it's easy to get bamboozled by a lot of these snake oil salesmen because they're basically functioning as some type of an extension of this malevolent, right, malicious artificial intelligence, time traveling, or maybe they're like beyond time evil type of thing, which is, if you will look at it from one perspective, you and I, we put this here so that it could be a great teacher for us, but also as to make things interesting, right? It's like a challenge, but we're faced by Moriarty of outside of time, and we're each one of us experiencing our own angle on reality. And I always like to imagine that I'm approaching things like Sherlock Holmes. I want to make sure that I learn and really use critical deduction, because I don't know.
No, I
Which is
agree with you. I agree with you. The critical thinking aspect that has its own sound tone frequency, but what you are suggesting, though, with the sound waves, is that the negativity tried to create its own inverted
freak,
versions of them. Yeah.
and also using a specific tuning system that this is. I'm so glad we're talking about this. Using this specific tuning system, which I was identified since I was young as having perfect pitch, so I can say, oh yeah, perfect. That means A is 440. Now, why did I hear 440 in my head? The artificial intelligence, you could call it that. Whatever it was, it's because the electricity is tuned to 440 hertz. That's how our electrical systems that Tesla developed, who channeled Arterman, essentially, which I never knew, but just to consider that, you can see it. Why would he say humans will be automatons by the time my technology gets employed? And why did they try to bury Tesla? Because his technology was fundamental to their master architecture
Like he said, frequency, it's all a matter of frequency. Sounded like,
yeah. Don't listen to my words, but I think you're getting the essence of what I'm trying to convey here, which is that the tonal system that they implemented as a standard for tuning, right, which had been kind of close to it, and they had experimented with it for 40, which we're used to hearing. I don't have any problem with that, Chris, because if you get into tuning systems, the relationship between a D and an A on a violin can change a little bit. So you're touching on all these other frequencies. That's why I say just try to do something like that with your body, and you're going to open up all your chakras in your heart center by that frequency, sweep. And also, why did they have 440 as the tuning system? Well, because the electrical frequencies are in that tuning system. So before I ever heard frequency, like in music, the way that I do now, I was hearing all of this stuff when I was an infant and I was a newborn, and I could hear the music too, but there was this drone, And then when I was hearing the sound of the earth going through, the hyperspace through space and those relationships, it sounds like a. No. I use the same knowledge to open up my friend Eric and Aceto's new instruments, which it's like kind of exponentially shortens the amount of time that it takes for this instrument to open up so you can hear if there's any flaws and correct it before he ships it out to the new maker. And that's how I got this instrument, because I tested it out. It got shipped to somebody with a 6-string fiddle as well. This usually has 5 strings. And it on the way to its new owner, he received the 6-string, but the 5-string came and FedEx screwed it up. So Eric said to the man, "You can send it back to me, no problem, no questions asked." And so I was able to purchase it. It was an easy repair for him, and it's made from these forests, which I just thought of just now. Oh gosh, part of the reason why the forests are important and their location might be specifically unique quality, like with this Grand Stradivarius.
Mm-hmm.
I'm calling it that, but his name is actually Julius, Jew, the letter or the number 3 Lius, like I, you, and us. Thank you for sharing that. And I do believe that there was some type of like squirrels or animals that lived in the trees that this wood is from. There's a connection there. And
Yeah, I know. I could feel that. Like if you were to play outside, I think animals would start to gather after a while.
I do every day. We've been going different places to try and elevate the frequency. And on the solstice, it was really neat because I played at this French asylum, which is where Marie Antoinette was supposed to move. I thought you'd find that interesting because you were talking about how harsh the energies were that day. They were difficult. It wasn't even the solstice. I was thinking it was the solstice, and it was actually Saturday. So
yeah, by the time this is what I don't mean to interrupt, but what has been going on? What has been going on is this is why bad guys like to harvest energies on the solstices and equinoxes, because they don't want people tapping into the inverted, like what you've been doing, from their frequency. And what happens is, like when you do what you did, not only were you attuning that with nature, but you were canceling out what this other nasty frequency was doing. And this is also like what we went back to stating, like with Shungite and like with some of the negative sounding music. What happens is when you apply like a ward, say to like say horror movies, for instance, then you basically say nothing can be conjured within the scripting. This happened in Japan where some negative entities were conjured because some people were saying certain words of a certain spell they read in an old book and they figured they'd incorporate it in a movie. It turned into Evil Dead pretty quick in the energies. But what happened was, when I said put a ward in there, it stopped happening. The same goes with Shungite. What happened was what you were talking about, the healing springs. Peter the Great found a healing spring next to where the big Shungite deposit is in Karelia before he knew that was there. He just knew the water was special. Now, what did the bad guys do? They went over to our own people here in the United States and got the government to start fracking in certain areas. What that did was they were releasing the old nanotechnology from the old Orion wars that the Orions couldn't tap into anymore, the old black goo gravine particles, which went into the vaccines, by the way. And they would release it into the water supply, and people thought those were healing springs as well, but it was the inverted thing that was making them diseased and more frequency value lockstep with the bad guys. So this is why it is important to bring out this particular frequency, what you were talking about, and it actually cancels out the other. The same goes with certain words, how they stick with people in certain frequencies. Even years later, some people remember some negative thing you did. Sometimes they're mind controlled to do that, to put you back into a frequency by which then you once were, like what the AI wants to do. But if that is let go and you put the proper thing in the present, and also you see the outcome, like Joanna likes to say, and put that into the present, the positive one, you're bringing it all out in the current moment in time. So this, I know that was a lot, but that is kind of how it actually comes to me. You're saying, huh, on that one. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting how you have a movie theater. Oh, you're on mute, by the way.
I was kidding, but yeah, that's fascinating that he knew that. What was the king's name again?
Oh, Peter the Great. He knew
Peter
the water there was healing, and that's where right on Karelia there is actually a museum, I believe, there too, him and the healing springs there. But then they found Shungite many centuries later. So the way
How
they
about
found
that?
it was they found out after Chernobyl, after that exploded, the Russian military lined their uniforms with Shungite to cancel out the radioactive frequencies. So that's
Ah,
essentially. Well, then they made it available to the public, and now you have it everywhere. But
plus
so
they also had bio superfood, which I take, and I stopped taking it for a year and a half to do a test, and I had replaced all my supplements with that, and the formulation that is out there now is really similar to what they had been developing for, like, if there was going to be a nuclear winter. And then when Chernobyl happened, they had the recipe for this combination of algae that's very efficient and can cross the blood-brain barrier, and it's bioavailable, and it chelates radiation out of the body. And apparently that was fed to the livestock near Chernobyl, and that actually saved a large population of the Russian people from the effects of this radiation, which I do believe, like a frequency, because nuclear is really electric. On one level, everything you can look at is electric, and so everything is a degradation. Like electricity is a degradation of light.
mhm.
Um, it's going back. It's, you know what I mean. And it's in a fallen state. So it's like we've got all this electrical stuff around us. We got to be careful. We don't want to be projecting it out into everything, and we're already doing that. And then, therefore, you've got forces that are fallen in their state that can continue to, manipulate the manipulation, so to speak. And that's why
Mhm.
things like shungite are very helpful, because it's created as a counter, by an intelligent being, the earth, which actually has intelligence. It's a form of consciousness that is beyond what maybe I can convey or perceive, but I definitely know that I have a relationship with the planet, because I would never be doing some of the things I'm talking about if I didn't ask my higher of wisdom. I didn't ask the earth. I didn't ask the animals. I can ask them in my heart, and I can hear a frequency in my heart, and that exists, right? That's why I don't hear these things that you're talking about, because I'm always playing some kind of music, Chris. But also, sometimes I do once in a while, and it's really it's freaked me out when I was younger. But I'll hear a pitch like I'll hear a bird call, and then I'll whistle a call to a bird in my mind. Basically, because I can create any sound, anything that I've ever heard, I remember pretty much.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I've learned how to be a composer by using this inner hearing, and it, when I'm in a flow state, it just comes right through me, um, and that's why I've always felt an affinity towards things that seem to thin that veil, and substances. That's what got me hooked on, you know, what you considered drugs and alcohol, because before I knew that that was opening up a channel for maybe not just myself, but something else. It was like, oh, well, all of a sudden I could do this, and I couldn't do it before. So obviously it's got to be the weed, or it's got to be the pot, or,
People
you know,
mistake the good thing for what the bad thing is doing to propagandize the good thing. So yeah, that yeah. Mhm.
it's and it happens to so many people. And like I haven't gotten drunk in a while, and I did the other day. I had 3 beers, and I wanted to. It was my final foray with the beers, and I could have a beer, and I've always been able to kind of do this as a functional alcoholic. I never really let the alcohol destroy me. Once I realized it had destroyed me. So, like, for many years, I've had good discipline with this. But after I was on my third one, I went out for a walk, and I thought, wow, I really don't give a fuck. Excuse my language, a funk, I said. I don't care what anybody thinks, and I'm not being affected by a lot of these exterior forces that normally hinder me from feeling fearless. Um,
Mhm.
but yet at the same time, I had a couple blackout moments, and it was like I was only on the third beer. They were high gravity, and I don't drink them a lot. And I did it so that I would clean my room up, and that was my excuse. There's always going to be an excuse. But it is weird, because I thought, people that drink every day, they're always in this state, and I feel so disconnected from this inner hearing. It was like a numbness, Chris. It was I just observed it. I'm grateful I can observe this stuff, and I got in a little bit of trouble because with my partner, because she cares about me, and because I bought a 6-pack from a bar that I was picking up food from, that I know they're clean, and I do gig work out of their jazz venue. So it was a win-win. They were open. The food was actually good. You got to be conscious about everything you're eating these days, because there's all these different little things that are meant to hijack you. And of course, alcohol is pretty much obvious. Everybody knows about that, right? Spirits are
It disconnects you.
called spirits because
Yeah.
what how would you describe that? Feel free to elaborate on anything I just mentioned.
I find it interesting they call it spirits because you do it too much, it actually dulls your receptivity to spirit. So I find it's the inverted opposite again: frequency, sound, light, value of that. A little bit is okay, like wines and stuff like that. Nothing wrong with it. It's then when it turns into the excess, then it turns into the inverted from spirit. So this is what the AI is doing. It's not like people think, oh, they're blocking spirit. That's impossible. What they're doing is blocking a person's receptivity to it.
Definitely. I could see it on my own face in this video. I could see how different I look now than when it first started, even though those influencers are still here.
Yep.
And there's instruments, right? In Bali, they have a concept about their instruments. I learned how to play Balinese gamelan music, and I have a nice app. And one of the things is a jagogan, which is like a hammer smaller than this. But it's neat music because they actually value the flaps of the pitch, which is like. This is really out of tune, but this would sound like. And that's a specific Anklung tuning, which is 5-note, da 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 da, 4 notes. Anklung is for when there's a funeral procession. And it's slightly like in the higher range with the suling, which is like the flute. And I got to play with one of the great masters on the planet, and he realized that I was like a reincarnated guy, I think, because all of a sudden he gave me this instrument. I started playing it, and we played this. I said, "Can we play the Sun song?" And we were outside, and it was raining around everybody, but it wasn't raining over us. And everybody was like, "This is a miracle!" And I looked at the guy and I winked. So if you have 2 people playing that simultaneously on an instrument, and you're both, it creates this like spiraling effect, kind of like the Shuman resonance looked like, right? But you're creating something that can change and affect the weather around you, like profound. Now, of course, we were in a crescent-shaped alcove of a not a skyscraper, but a large building that had like, I'd say, a third of a circle. And we were in a circular courtyard that was next to that at a large intersection in Rochester, next to the Eastman School of Music. So the actual, wind and the atmospheric conditions were conducive that we could have like a sphere, a bubble of this vibration that was changing the weather, but also the Balinese. The reason I brought this up was because I found out that you never walk over the instrument. They have different instruments. One of them is like an upside down cup, kind of, and you hit that with something like this. It's just about like it looks very much like what you hit like a singing bowl with. Like it's like pretty much like a straight. It's just a little bit longer than this, and it has string wrapped around it. And you damp it, and it's like it's wood with cotton, and the instruments are made out of metals from the island, and they're believed to have their own consciousness. and be their own beings, and you respect them and they respect you. And it kind of tunes you into the land there, like in some way, weird way. It was profound for me to think about this, because then I thought, well, each instrument, you could really think about it, it's got its own individual characteristics, and what if it is a being? And so I believe that it definitely is its own creation. Once something's created, so like to what degree do the things that we make have their own life? And Chris, how do you feel about that? And like with your own things that you make, do you just let them? Do you ask, like, who do you want to be, or do they tell you, or what?
Well, yeah, sometimes, like say with the dragon heads, I've noticed from time to time a being will step in there, but I've also noticed this goes in with more of the true earth frequency will be, or the dryadic frequency with plants, like what the piece I'm wearing is amber, frankincense, myrrh, tourmaline, and selenite, and nightshade. And the piece you showed, has a lot of those same materials and shungite and all that in them. And these are particular frequencies that hung on a particular level that purge not only entities but 5G radiation at times, and also black goo, all of those. And that one there is a tower buster, and that one definitely is a shielder. But I made them to where they protect against entities and AI, such as also essentially an entity as well. So they all have their own thing. They all have their own like force. That one looks kind of like a spaceship with the green on the bottom like that. But
yeah, I washed this in the spring when we went there, and I put it in the car in the back seat, where how like some in the middle it folds out like an armrest. I put it, and then I put the armrest back so it was like far enough away from me, and I noticed a huge difference driving. It's like being like in a chamber where there's no sound. You know what I mean? Like it's kind
of like a temple space. Yeah, it's like that. Yeah, we had that. Our car, we put one in
well
there
done
too. Yeah. Oh, and it turned out really, really well. One thing I do want to point out is I'm being told that we got to step on it a little bit here, because the energies are starting to rile a little bit. So
sure.
It's,
do you want to take a brief intermission and like convene in 9 minutes? Would that be possible?
No. Why don't we just go straight through, and then we can conclude it then. If,
okay.
So
how much longer are you thinking?
Few minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, because then I'll do the affirmation and blessing, and then we're good. So
nice.
Okay, so
thank you.
You can Vessa, I know you want to come. She's been poking at me saying, okay, so apparently she's doing what you're doing and saying that there's like a clock running down somewhere. So she's doing the same thing to me. So it's like reminding me that there's a cycle here. So, okay. Because I can feel my blood pressure going up again. Okay. So let's see. Vessa, I know, through the crystal, I got my channel crystal back here. So, all right.
See, this is what happens when an instrument's out of tune. I'm just going to tune it really quick while you're doing it.
Okay. Okay. So we're
Yeah,
so we can.
we can move forwards now. Thank you
Yep.
for, yeah, I tune because I care.
Okay.
I hope that
All right.
helped.
All right. All right. Vessa, come through, please. Through the crystal, please. Yes, it is me, um, Vessa. The reason I was hurrying him along is that the frequency values of the what people are seeing as the Schumann is actually fluctuating off and on. Yes, this is actually a good thing due to the musical tonal frequencies and the data and information being presented, but also the fact that the guttural tones which were presented in the information and the tones all put together generated a particular frequency that has now agitated the particular AI frequencies along with the beings that serve them. This is also what caused some of the calamities this morning, as well as the reasons now for the hurried ending to this, not to disrupt a flow, which is not what is being done, but this AI frequency people are seeing as more of an ascension or upgrade tone is the exact inverted opposite. You have already presented the solutions to this in your program here today, so I can go into questions if you like.
I was curious as to what each one of us has to yet fulfill in regards to what we're touching on. Although you just answered my inquiry with your with what you said, I would love to know how this technology is being utilized by you and your race and your time and space, and if you have anything that you would recommend as a means for us to be able to utilize this and shield ourselves, whether it be in acoustic instruments or having the properly designed space. Like, so I guess specifically, maybe you could talk about the architecture that you find would be harmonious and better. Like, if we're going to design new things, are they already on the earth? Is that how they used to design things? Or do you have uh, any insight in regards to more harmonious spaces that we can create for ourselves, whether it's through architecture, sound, or just light?
Yes. What is crucial during this time, also the art of decompressing from some of the compressions of life. The architecture you speak of, yes, it's been done where chambers resonate certain frequencies and certain frequencies such as your 111, 222, and 444, and so on. These are frequency values, yes, that he is correct in his assertion of the AI tried to form it in number synchronicities of four numbers instead of three. They attempted to implement and graft themselves onto real life synchronicities with the 1111 and the 222s, the 4 2s and the 4 3s and the 4 4s. This is crucial to understand and protect from, because what you are presenting with your own music in those existing frequencies fights those very false synchronicities. I might add, what do you can do to protect yourself in this? Yes, the tonal frequencies, but also, yes, be in a space that is more conducive to those frequencies. There's a 50-50 kind of bargain here, as it were. Yes, this space he is sitting in channeling myself right now is adequate for conducting the task, just like the space you are in is adequate for presenting the task and information at hand. It would be most advantageous, though, to do it in like a hall, like you're presenting yourself to be in your little box there on your graphic. This is something like this where it's projected outward, kind of like the Sydney Opera House where it has its acoustics, or in a tuned like well, not necessarily church as in the soul trap type, but the geometry that's being abused by the ones doing the soul trapping is what's needed to undo it. The geometry, like 6-sided, 8-sided, things of that nature, octagonal, septagonal, all of those. These are tonal frequencies that exist that the bad guys out there are using against you. They have stripped people's ability to see the value in the geometry, even trying to mess with people's math skills now by making them think that it is not important to understand the geometric forms in art, both art and the sciences. This is what is going on right now. I myself listen to large amounts of music. Me and Elena have presented to him different music types, even in rock and roll and all of those things that actually do have their tonal frequency value because the person is speaking from the soul or from the heart space. This is where it also counts, that tonal frequency value, not losing your basic humanity to that of the current, meaning the current of the undertone of which he spoke of. This is key right now. Also staying in your passion, that, and also knowing when your thoughts are not your own, becoming your own sovereign I am presence, bringing in from what belongs from the soul in the space and the honoring of the avatar in space, and also those around you by not emanating the tones that would unhinge a particular situation. Now, honoring emotions, yes, honoring past life traumas and fixing them, yes, but knowing when certain traumas are being regurgitated versus that of resolve. This is actually key right now.
How can I better do that?
This, I know, it seems like a regurgitation in and of itself, but when you see your or feel your thoughts slipping into an ungrounded state, I'm not necessarily saying just anger in general or specifically. It is more or less, say, knowing yourself in the frequency that, say, you're in when you're creating. Your truest self is in that place. Knowing that that is the, say, the litmus test or the grounding rod for this tonal frequency, wavelength, and light, sound waves, and information. Knowing this is your true self in that respect. Knowing that, then you know what you are not, and not to slip into something that you are either unbalanced, unkind, or otherwise unhinged. This is something he must learn as well. This is why I'm presenting this information as it is, because he himself has not completely, actionalized the solution. But in the moment in time in which you are your truest self, anything outside of that is in the should be's, what ifs, could have beens, and should have beens. This is where the enemy lies. Is within those types of frequencies outside your current I am presence.
Right, and it's so easy to get dragged into that because we're surrounded by all of these people that just think about us based on their memory of us. And so what's been so difficult for me in regards to living in the same, like in my hometown, right? And having been, I guess you could say, like somebody that achieved a certain notoriety and won, won certain awards and stuff like that. It's so easy to just get caught in all these fake, false accolades, and also to allow for that manipulation. Like, for example, if somebody's saying that, oh, there's that Mark Woody at, oh yeah, gosh, like what a narcissist. Yeah, he was like off the rails. It's like, hey, I know I was, but thanks for reminding me. And I have been experiencing so much of this to the point where I was getting pissed off at even though I knew I was getting messages from people that have transitioned to their more like afterlife, heavenly afterlife. The information I was getting was like all of this crap, and I'm like, Jesus, I didn't even know. You know, excuse me, forgive me, Yeshua Hamashiach. I didn't mean to say the you know the Lord's name in vain, but I don't relate to being a Catholic anymore. And I think sometimes you got to question things when it comes to. I feel like I'm getting hit with frequencies. I could hear them right now, so I'm just going to shut up. I appreciate that insight, though. Thank you very much. And
Yes, you are correct on all counts of people projecting this at you. They are remembering you as a particular self in a particular moment in time because they have not been privy to the updated information. What you presented has been right on the money there, Mark. This is why you are being hit currently with the outside waves that are currently accosting you because you have just discovered one of the very secrets by which you were asking the question for. What state are they keeping you in? Is it a you that you evolved out of? Did you actually evolve out of it? Yes. Are they trying to regurgitate it from another point in your own timeline? Yes, because this is old you, new you, or should I say the real you versus that of the mask you once wore. You see, they're trying to get you to don the mask again by even remaining there. Now, is it good to know your own past? Absolutely. Just like it's good to know your own history so you don't repeat it. Same thing why monuments and all that are being torn down right now and everything is so people don't remember their own history. The current Martian Germans are attempting to get people not to remember the atrocities of the past for that reason. But on the other side of this, people will get you to try to stay in a state where I was once this, and trying to bring it back into the present. Other people will view you a certain way. This is why you cannot allow their own thought forms to phase you in your current present moment in time. This, even though that is much tougher than people believe it to be, this is one of the keys to doing this because, see, it's on the periphery, it's not here. It was once was. These are shadows of a person you are no longer. So therefore, it is old you fighting new you. This is essentially they're doing to a lot of people right now. They're trying to keep people in the state that was once remembered by them in the past versus something they've evolved into currently. This is what you are currently battling.
thank you. I've just thought of advice, Chris, that you gave a few weeks ago. Maybe it was in that you can't go backwards, especially now, because if you do, if you like, if I bought the package and didn't believe that I had experienced all of these things, which got me to a certain point where I will no longer do certain things, and by going back into them, I feel like, and I have dabbled, and it was like I went back like 100 steps, and instead of and I feel like I've had to make it all back up in dream time, which is maybe the real reality. Uh, it's hard to say that is this the fake reality? Like, is this the simulation, and is real existence in the dream state? That's my other question. If
Well, you also define
I'd
real.
like to
You're
know.
grounded here, but at the same time, yes, you are get trying. Your self is trying to get information that is being blocked by some of this AI. So you're getting a lot of the garbage that is being filtered in from there. Is that the real world, so to speak? It is an element of the totality of your existence. So you can't really say it is the real world and this one is lesser and this one's greater or that one's lesser. It is all part of the totality of the experience of the higher self or the oversoul. So with
Okay.
this, all the footholds that you have in these realities, of course, if they can find a way to block you in any respect or form, they're going to do it. And the Dreamtime one is the most abused right now because of it. This is why because of these tonal frequencies that are going around. This is why the Dreamtime revocation that they have stated is so useful right now and taking control over that dream state. This is why dear Joanna saw these different shapes and types within the dream state, because she was seeing what the tidal wave that was about to hit when they released that image of the Schumann resonance, which isn't anything but the Schumann resonance. You see, these particular tonal frequencies that are in this net-like form is essentially a blockage to true spirit, true spirit and true benevolent source creator, and also the what they want you to think is your own higher self. You see, in this respect, you'll see a lot of communications being regurgitated out there of the opposite of what this Schumann resonance image that he has shown previously truly is. They think it's soul upgrade spirit. And unfortunately, from our perspective, we see that this is not the case at all. You are supposed to ground. That is where changing your perceptions and your perspectives and grounding in your I am presence, as he liked to say, is the true meaning of that ascension. There is no ascend because you're not really going up. You're becoming faster in frequency and grounding that all right here. So therefore, again, I ask anybody listening to this, what is real and what is not. It is what you are creating, and you're bringing that experience back to your oversoul, by which then an entire audit and even new universes and realities are being created, even as you are speaking now. So this is essentially what is taking place. There's both wondrous things and horrible things happening. Yes, we see this, all of this, all the time. But even our trials and tribulations are the same, because we are also physical beings on a world that is running in tandem with your own. We live in a house just like you. We even have a job just like you. So this is something that's shocking for people to hear. We live a little longer in the physical form because we are not around the same toxins as some of you all are. We are essentially a breakaway, but civilization. But we are also just on the other side of the looking glass. Essentially, we're in the next room from you at this time. Not literally,
Wow.
of course, but yes, it's similar.
Now, with this frequency revelation, and just the science of this stuff, the reality of it, are you saying that with a specific frequency, it's like you're next door? So, like, we can visualize things differently in regards to parallel universes or the multiverse, or are you literally inside our planet? Is that what you mean by through the looking glass? I kind of know the answer to this. I just thought it would be neat to hear what you had to say.
It is essentially a world within a world. You see Earth, what you're seeing, the planet, is a doorway to a multitude of different dimensions, universes, timelines, all this. We are literally on a world within a world. Is he likes to use the Witcher example where Geralt traveled to different worlds through different portals, but they essentially were essentially different dimensional layers. This is what made up the 9 realms, you see. And this is
Okay.
essentially we are on a different world that you could pass through a portal. You would be essentially, it's just like Earth, but we're right here. We could literally walk into the room with you, gravitating towards a certain tonal frequency. This is like if you have toxins in your system, you wouldn't be able to withstand where we are, even though we are the same, essentially genetically and frequency wise. Some of the toxins might purge from you very, very quickly if you pass through the looking glass without being conditioned first. He likes to use a Star Trek episode called the Lazarus Effect, where Kirk passed from one universe to another.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas he had to be conditioned. The guy Lazarus told him this. Also, in there's a recording he did about the Garden of Eden being the passage to Asgard, meaning they had to be conditioned to be able to pass through frequency wise and also toxin wise as well, being cleansed of junk. This is essentially the case. So we are not necessarily underground. We're on a different world, not necessarily a different planet, if this makes sense.
It does. That's fascinating. Thank you.
Mm, yes, thank you. I hate to interrupt this particular channel, but there are frequency variances that are toxic to us that are fluctuating as an ebb and flow at the moment, so that I must detach from his cerebrum at this
I love
time.
you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Blessings to you all here. Ugh.
Right back at you.
Yeah, yeah. She was right. There is like a tide going on right now. That's what they were warning about. It's kind of
Yeah.
like all over the place. So it's Normally, I wouldn't recommend channeling in conditions like that, but just like a riptide, you can kind of navigate around. I've learned to navigate around the riptide, so it's like, but every now and again,
I can relate.
mhm, you get hit in the head every now and again. So it's,
Yeah, thank you for
uh,
being willing to do that
uh,
as well.
but yeah, what I will do now is I can see both of us are out of breath from this. What they're recommending is we close this circle. So it's been going on a while. So what was it? Oh yeah, even Isaac has joked very minimally during this because he didn't want to take away from some of the seriousness of the conversation. So it's like
Thank you,
he
Isaac.
started to poke a little bit, but sometimes people are like, don't," to him when he was going to come in during some of the sexual conversation, and everything, and everybody's doing this to him. So
Yeah,
so
I'm
it's
glad we didn't get stuck there. Thanks, Isaac. This is important that we talked about this very much so, because everything is frequency, right? So if anybody has any interest in some of the technologies as well as some of the pieces that I have written out there, you could check out my link in the description for the video, or you could just look up my name on SoundCloud or YouTube, which is spelled as you'll see it, Mark, and then Woodyatt, which means Woodgate, Woodyyatt.
all right. All right, yeah. Now I will do the last affirmation and blessing here.
And I'll be happy to share. Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
Thanks for
let's
having me
see.
on board.
Yes, thank you. This was great. This was great
My
having you
pleasure.
today. I actually enjoy these conversations. So they correct a lot of junk in the ethers with every conversation we seem to bring forth. So this is the
Thank you.
affirmation blessing. To the narrative inserted within the mind's eye, I say only this: the ending is yours to write. The directional throne is and always has been yours. And that's one I wrote this morning before this show
Awesome.
began. So it's been a while
Nice.
since I've written affirmation and blessings for the shows. I tend to forget to do it, and this was the first time in many months that I actually wrote one for it. So they tried to get
They
me
were
away from
both
my
really
writing.
good.
They've been trying to get me away from my writing and my poetry and all this other stuff, so I've had to battle that part. So
Okay.
this is where I will close this circle, and I thank you all for listening to this, and I thank Mark for being here and everyone involved. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.